Today's patients want simple communication options. Enter Baird. Collect more reviews, get more visibility in search results, and connect with patients all in one easy-to-use platform. Connect with your website visitors instantly. Live chat and chat box allow your team to get connected with prospective patients while they're still on your website. Show potential patients social proof on sites like Google, Facebook, and Healthgrades. Automatically send review requests to patients via text and email after an appointment and see your reviews grow. Take advantage of modern-day word-of-mouth marketing with Baird referrals. Patients can refer their friends and family to your practice in just a few clicks. Get referrals from your happy patients to help bring in new ones. They also offer teledentistry to help keep up with today's busy patient, and their services are 100% HIPAA compliant. Baird is your all-in-one patient communication solution. Trust what over 7,500 dental practices already know. Baird helps your patient communication soar.
Hey, welcome back. We are in the PM session of day one. As I mentioned earlier before the event, we have 2 days, jam-packed days of amazing courses, amazing presentations, and you can get CE for this. If you click the link above, you can get CE for $99, up to 10 hours of CE credits. This is for team members, it's for dentists, this is for everyone in the dental practice. You can get CE. So this afternoon, we have some amazing speakers, but before we get into who the speakers are, again, I want to give another shout out to our sponsors, because without them, this would not be possible. So I want to give a shout out to Infinite Dental Technology, Kettenbach, Dental Stores, Simplastics, Preview Dental Software, MVP Mailhouse, United Medical Credit, Mango Voice, Baird, Crazy Dental, CareStack, Dental Re, Mouthwatch, and of course, Dark Horse Tech. So the PM session, we have 3 amazing speakers, Dr. Leonard Tau, Katrina Sanders, our super hygienist, and Dr. Bruce Baird. But without further ado, Dr. Leonard Tau. Dr. Leonard Tau has been chosen as one of the top leaders in dental consulting by Dentistry Today, and he has dedicated his professional life to improving dentistry for his patients as well as other dentists. After purchasing his practice, the Pennsylvania Center for Dental Excellence, in 2007, Len practiced full-time while offering consulting to other dental practices. He's trained many dentists on reputation marketing, and he's led the dental division of Baird, a reputation marketing platform. He hosts the Raving Patients podcast and recently authored the book Raving Patients in the soon-to-be-released 100 Tips to 100 Reviews in 100 Days. He's also the founder of Tau Dental Consulting, a firm that builds comprehensive marketing plans for dentists. In 2018, Len cut down to practicing dentistry 2 days a week to focus additional time and attention to helping other dentists build broad and compelling online footprints that attract hundreds of new patients to their practices. Len lectures nationally and internationally on using internet marketing, social media, and reputation marketing to make dental offices more visible and credible, as well as decrease their case acceptance. Dr. Tau brings his extensive background to today's presentation. Oh my God, I got a bad review.
Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. My name is Dr. Len Tau. I'm a dentist in Philadelphia, and I wanted to briefly just thank Glenn Vo for inviting me to be part of this event. I also want to eloquently thank him for referring to me as the Baird guy, which has stuck for a very long time. So thanks, Glenn, for that. I appreciate that. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And every day I get an email from a dentist who's struggling with a bad review. And they always say the same thing. Oh my God, I got a bad review. What do I do? So that's what today we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the importance of bad reviews, how to get more positive reviews, and And just on a side note, many of you know that I do work for Bird Eye. I will mention Bird Eye very briefly during this webinar to just kind of show you how to get more positive reviews. It isn't a sales pitch. If you do want any more information about Bird Eye, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information will be provided at the end, and feel free, I can do a demo with you there, but this isn't really a pitch. It's just showing you the abilities of our software. So again, today's topic is, oh my God, I got a bad review. What do I do? I am a dentist. Like I said, I practice in Philadelphia. I moved to Florida recently, so I actually commute up to my office and every Monday, and I work Mondays and Tuesdays, and I fly back home on Wednesdays. This is probably one of the worst reviews I've ever seen. And I'm real. I will show you exactly what happens in my own practice. This was a patient who thought and she stated it right here, as you can see, scammer, unaffordable, unethical. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but basically, she called me a scam artist and was money hungry. And she ended it by saying, I'm an opportunistic scam artist who uses scare tactics and pressure selling to drive his business. I found him to be extremely overpriced and highly unethical. The Hippocratic Oath means nothing to this man. And that was December 11th, 2018. And this is, like I said, one of the worst reviews I've received. And basically, I don't necessarily worry about a bad review. It sucks when it happens, but this really got to me because in all my years of doing dentistry, I really haven't been called those things. But this is how my day started. And I'll show you a little bit at the end of how it ended. And these are some bad reviews that are written throughout, really in San Francisco. Actually, these were taken on Yelp. And I'm going to read very little snippets of these things. Okay. So I felt very uncomfortable. Many of my procedures were done in a way where none of my personal information was private or secure. I felt exposed, and anyone walking by could see just all about my personal information. The equipment was old, worn, and seemed unprofessional. The one on the lower left, billing errors mixed with a heavy push for Invisalign left me with a bad taste in my mouth. They charged me $314 to my debit card after my insurance didn't cover my full appointment. 2.5 months after my appointment without ever sending me a bill. The middle one, where to start? All right, check it out here. Here's my review on this place so far. This is just the experience of only trying to make the first appointment as a new patient on behalf of my mother. Overall bad experience, ended up going for a first visit consultation, but never return afterwards. Will only return if I was able to pull their teeth. Upper right, bad experience. Teeth cleaning was brutal. They don't hold back. They are not gentle. And the last one on the bottom right, I hate writing bad reviews, but I have to for this office. This is by far the worst dentist I've been to. I was there on time for my appointment, but I had to wait for 45 minutes before they saw me. So what is the most common complaint you see? They are customer service complaints. Okay. And you can control that. You can fix your customer service. So yes, bad reviews are problematic, but you need to read them and understand that none of them or most of them are not fake. I will tell you that. Okay. People are giving you feedback about their experiences in your office, and you need to take constructive criticism and use it to make your business better. Now, there's a lot of COVID bad reviews that are happening as in regards to charging a PPE fee or not wearing the proper PPE. These are all things that we've been seeing when COVID-19 came into play. Now we're even seeing a COVID-19 vaccine bad review, which is this was a dentist who was refusing to get the vaccine. I guess someone in the office told the patient, just so you know, her mom died of the COVID vaccine she's claiming, so she does not want to get her vaccine for that reason. And the guy said, if she has now gotten her vaccination, I will remove this review. So again, you have to take these for what they're worth, and people reading them will obviously be able to judge good versus bad or insane versus nutty patients. But this is what people are writing their reviews about, and you have to be aware of that. And again, in a lot of these reviews, we are overlooking one of the most important things when a patient comes into the office. We're making them feel not welcome. Okay, we're not giving them that wow experience. The new patient experience is you have to exceed the expectations. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you there are 3 ways or 3 things to do in your practice to avoid a bad review. Exceed customer expectations, go the extra mile, and under promise and over deliver. Now, if you do these 3 things, I can guarantee you that a significant amount of the reviews you get are going to be positive. If you ignore these, you will find that you are getting some negative reviews. So we don't live in a world of 5-star experiences. So accept the fact that not all the reviews are going to be 5 stars. And I'm very happy. I have 330 reviews probably as I record this, and I've got 4.8 stars, and I'm very content with that. I don't want to be perfect, as I'll show you why. There's a couple of bad reviews mixed in, mostly because of my mouth being from New York and living in Philadelphia or practicing in Philadelphia. But you cannot expect perfect reviews. And when someone reaches out to me and they say, well, Len, I got a bad review, I'm saying, well, congratulations, you are finally a real dentist, because just like if you do enough endos, you'll break a file. Okay, if you don't break files, you haven't done enough endo. If you don't have any negative reviews, you haven't been a dentist long enough. So what we're going to start off talking about here is something near and dear to my heart, which is called reputation marketing, which I believe is the most important way you can market your business. It's the most important way, as I'll point out to you. So why is your online reputation so important? Let's begin there. Well, because patients, the consumers, make decisions based on what other people are saying. And this is just an example of a review on someone's Google page. Bad reviews forced me to cancel services 48 hours after signing on. That's a review in the review snippets on Google. So one of the first things you should do is go to your Google My Business page, which everybody knows is where all the Google reviews are held. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and there'll be a snippet of 3 reviews. You don't want any bad reviews there. That's the first thing people are going to see. This is one of them for this business. And then another one, this is a text message someone sent me. I was looking at the reviews of this company online. Oh my God. So right away, they're not happy with the services, or they're potentially not happy with the services. So people make decisions based on what other people are saying. And if you have a bad reviews, you're turning them away. I just spoke to a dentist in New York who has 39 reviews, 2.1 stars. That's horrible. And if that's what you have, that's a problem. So the other reason why your online reviews or your reputation is so important is that no matter what type of marketing you're doing, whether you're doing paid search, which is Google AdWords, pay-per-click advertising, Facebook funnels, if you're doing organic search, which is search engine optimization, if you're doing display advertising is basically retargeting, and women who are listening to this will understand. If you go to Nordstrom's and you look at a pair of shoes on their website, those pair of shoes are going to appear other places online. That is what we refer to as display advertising or retargeting. Or if you're doing any type of paid social media, okay, you're spending money on marketing. If you don't have enough reviews on Google especially, you need to stop, because you're wasting your money. You're literally wasting your money. So the reputation enhances the performance, and you will get much better results from this on this marketing you're doing. The ROI will be higher as long as you have a great baseline of reviews. And I would say once you hit the golden nugget of 100, you're free to start marketing your practice. Prior to that, if you're a new startup, you're really in trouble with the ROI, because people are still going to look at the reviews before they come in the office. I love this tweet. Your patients actually care about online reviews. Shout out to people who rate and review things, because I don't like to rate or review things, but I like to know how things are rated and reviewed. So this person likes to read reviews, but he doesn't like to write them. And you're going to have a handful of people who just read the reviews and they make decisions based on what other people are saying. So I want to share with you some statistics. This is from a consumer survey that comes out every single year. These are the 2019 numbers reported in 2020. That's called a local consumer review survey. And this was the impact on COVID, by the way, on local business reviews. So 37 searched for fewer businesses, 28 searched for more local businesses, and 35 searched for a similar number of businesses. 34% read fewer reviews, 31% read more reviews, and 35% read a similar number of reviews. Now, just so you know, 67% wouldn't use a business if reviews said it didn't have COVID health and safety measures in place. And as dentists, we should. And 17% have written negative reviews for businesses that do not have health and safety measures in place for COVID-19. So that gives you an idea of how COVID has affected the local business landscape. So what business type have you read online reviews for? And you can see the top 5 are restaurants, hotels, dentists, retail, and automotive. So we're the third most searched business when it comes to online reviews. And in the 35 to 54-year-old and the 55 and older crowd, we're third and second respectively. So that's a main target audience for most of the practices that are general dentists, the 35 to 55 and older, or that's where you want to be. So people are reading the reviews in those age ranges. Do consumers read online reviews for local businesses? So in the 2020 survey, 87% of consumers read online reviews for local businesses. This was an increase from 81% from the previous year and a huge percent from 67% in 2010. Okay, and just so you know, I got involved in online reviews in 2009, 2010 when I realized the effect it had on my practice. So I built my own software that Baird I bought. A lot of people don't know that story. Okay, so what's your next step after reading a review? Okay, 31% will visit the website directly. And there hasn't been that much of a change year over year here. 28% will search for more reviews to validate your choice. 17% will visit the business location. 12% will continue searching for other businesses, and 12% will contact the business. When reading a review, what do you pay the most attention to? And by far and away, the overall star rating is 84%. Now, how real the review seems is 81%, and how recent the review was 80%. And studies show that 60% will use a business with less than 4 stars. So if you have less than 4 stars, 60% of the people, only 40% will use your business. You're losing business. How can you afford not to take care of your online reviews if this is happening? Now, this is a crazy data to me, and you can see it's increased year over year. How recent does a review need to be to impact your consumer's decision to use a local business? So in 2020, 50% of the people want reviews within a 2-week period. So they want to see reviews that are no older than 2 weeks. Okay, 86% think reviews older than 3 months are not relevant any longer. So you need fresh, current reviews to be considered relevant. Now, here's how consumers use online reviews for local businesses in 2020. 93% search for an online business, for a local business online. 34% search for a local business online every day, 34%. Okay, 48% will use a business with less than 4 stars. 12% will use a business with fewer than 5 stars, which I don't necessarily agree with that. 86% of consumers only pay attention to reviews within the last 3 months, as I mentioned to you. How do online reviews affect your opinion of a local business? 74% the consumers say they will make the trust the business more. And if the patients trust you, they buy from you. So this is a big buying factor. If they trust you, they buy from you. The star rating I trust the most is nowhere near 5 stars. Nowhere near. As you can see here, somewhere between 4.2, 4.8. That's the perfect number of reviews. You don't want to be down below 4, but it's not near 5 stars. So if you only have 5-star reviews, I always say piss a patient off once in a while because you want a better review here and there. It actually makes your business look better. It makes it look real. I've gotten so many patients who said, I came in because I felt your reviews were real based on what other people said, and you did have some negative reviews. And for which of these local business types of reputation matter the most when choosing a business? By far and away, second, 45%, is dentists and healthcare. That's where we fall. So this is a really, really important reason that you have to make reputation a big part of your marketing. And this was a Google review study done by the same company, Bright Local, based on 13,000 dentists. The average 84% of dentists have Google reviews, and 38 is the average number of reviews that a dentist has, 4.6 stars. Now, after being referred a business, what do you do next? Now, in the past, when someone gave your information, they just called the office. My dad's a retired dentist. When people said, go to see Dr. Tau, they just called his office. Okay. Nowadays, they're actually looking 87% online to search online to find the company information. And the information they're looking for, 52% of the times, are your online reviews and ratings. So people are no longer just picking up the phone and calling you. They're researching before they're making their decision. But you have to be proactive. You cannot be reactive to getting a bad review or getting multiple bad reviews. So I always say the first 10 reviews you get will go ahead and protect you against a bad review. I call them prophylactic reviews. Okay. The first 10. And they state that every bad review you get, you need 10 more positives to overcome it. So you have to get a lot of these positive reviews ahead of yourself, or else you're going to look bad online. So this is a common scenario for a dentist. Patient has a toothache. He uses Google, his iPad, and he calls you with his iPhone. So you need to be found within this realm here, or people aren't even going to be calling you. And that's a separate discussion. But you have to be visible when people are searching for a dentist or an emergency dentist if you're going to get these calls. So they call you, they make an appointment, they come on in, and there you're treating them. Okay? But you ran late, or there was a money issue, which are the two most common complaints online: money and time. Okay, it's not about the dentistry. They very rarely will know that you have an open margin on a crown, or there's a problem with the filling that was placed. Okay, they know that something was painful. Okay, but they do not know that there was a bad dentistry until they go to another dentist, and the dentist throws you under the bus, which we hear a lot about. And that's when you may see a bad review when it comes to the quality of dentistry. But time and money are the two most common complaints people get. And we have to remember that everyone is a publisher now. They all have iPhones or Android devices or iPads. And if you're running late and the people are in your office, they literally could be posting something on Twitter or Instagram that, hey, this is crazy. I've been at my office, dental office on time. The dentist is running late. So please keep that in mind. I still remember I had a dentist reach out to me. Almost every one of his bad reviews were he was running late. Almost everyone. He was coming late to the office in the morning. So he said, what can I do about it, Len? I'm like, are you kidding? You show up on time. That's very easy to change. They just didn't want to make the changes. But today, everyone is a publisher. And they will go home, yell at the computer, and scream. Okay. And they'll put reviews on Yelp or Twitter or Instagram or Google. This is a major problem. So what you really want to start doing is taking a negative review and making it a positive. So this is one way you could do it. And this guy got a review on Yelp. Come in and try the worst meatball sandwich that one guy on Yelp ever had in his life. And this sign actually made national news many years ago. Okay. But in the worst case, take a negative and make it a positive because you change the way you're doing something in the office. If you're running late, fix it. Okay. If your person at the front desk is rude, fix it. I once had a dentist reach out to me. He had about 20 bad reviews, and every single review that was bad was about the person at the front desk. And he called me and said, what do you think I could do about it? I'm like, you need to fire that front desk person. That's what you need to do. Well, that was his wife. That's what he told me. It's my wife. I have a problem. I go, then you need to divorce her. Well, he hung up on me and didn't want to talk to me at that point. But that's literally what you have to do. Sometimes you have to make those difficult decisions. But there's a buzz now about some negative reviews. So I'm going to share with you some interesting stories or interesting case studies to examine. So this is the Baird Italian Bistro. They want to be the worst rated restaurant on Yelp. Okay, so they want you to hate you on Yelp. And they're giving 50% off any pizza for your 1-star review. Now remember, you're not allowed to incentivize for a 5-star review, but if you want to incentivize for a 1-star review, have at it. So they were not happy with Yelp's policies. And they basically are combating Yelp by becoming the worst rated restaurant. But that's bringing them so much business to them. So it's a genius way of doing things. Now, this is from Snowbird. Snowbird created the 1-star campaign. And for those who are familiar with Snowbird, it's a very difficult, great ski lodge, ski resort in Utah. And again, they created this 1-star campaign where they took their bad reviews and literally did advertising on it. So this is when I heard Snowbird is a tough mountain, but this is ridiculous. I felt like every trail was a steep chute or littered with tree wells. How is anyone supposed to ride in that? Not fun. Again, a 1-star review, but they put it into an ad. Here's another one, disappointed. No easy runs. This was genius. They got so much business because of these reviews. I love this one. This is a totally another company. My wife hated it. Beautiful beaches, amazing food, and a great culture. Beautiful women everywhere in the teeniest bikinis, and apparently my wife doesn't like that. That's amazing. I think this was like Bora Bora or something. This fabulous way to handle the reviews they got. So take a negative and make it a positive in some way. So how do you monitor, moderate, and protect your online reputation? So again, I'll be real. This was a review. This is probably 3 or 4 years ago at this point, maybe 5 years ago. A woman named Maria came in. Her and I did not gel the first time she came in. She had gone to a retired dentist or dentist moved out of state or something. But she literally states this dentist isn't someone I can trust at all. And when someone doesn't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. There's no reason to have them as patients. Okay. Again, pushy sales, and it's all about money normally. Like I said, this is what this case here was. So she never came back and she wrote a bad review. Now you will notice if you look at the review, there's a two thumbs up. So people will actually like the bad reviews, which means they're reading them. Okay. So if you do get a bad review, and again, if you haven't been practicing dentistry long enough, you may not have gotten a bad review. But if you're a dentist as long as I am, you will have some bad reviews. So if you do get one, the first thing you want to do is don't panic, calm down, and take a deep breath and hold it for 20 minutes. Okay, you might not be here at that point, but you do not want to be emotional when you get a bad review. Okay, or you just want to keep calm and just keep swimming. But you don't want to be emotional. You don't want to write something you're going to regret online, because removing it's going to be difficult. So a bad review may spoil your breakfast, but you shouldn't allow it to spoil your lunch. So the first thing I want to ask, and again, I'm not live speaking to you here, so there's no audience here, but do you respond or not? And I usually get 10 or 15 people in a room of 50 that say they want to respond and the rest do not want to respond. And there's no right or wrong answer here. It just depends on what you feel is right for your practice. Personally, I don't respond to most negative reviews. And I'll tell you what I do in a few minutes, but I don't respond. Okay. But if you do respond, you must say to the person in the review, even if you're not, you must apologize and say you're sorry. You must. Okay. You also have to be careful that I read a ton of responses for negative reviews. Okay. Most people violate HIPAA when responding to a negative review. So just so you know, acknowledgement of a patient in the office is in fact a HIPAA violation. You cannot technically acknowledge that they're even a patient in your office or you violated HIPAA. Even if they open the door up, you cannot respond that way. So you want to use a general statement, something like, we're sorry you had this experience. Office policy states that we don't normally run late. Please contact the office to discuss your concerns. That, to me, that is not going to violate HIPAA in any way, shape, or form. Okay. So these are examples of a dentist who actually violated HIPAA. And I'm not going to read it to you, but basically their response was a little over the top here. So a lot of information in here that was private. Okay. And this one on the right-hand side, they gave him a 5-star review. Now, remember, you're not going to get in trouble unless someone reports you. And someone who gave you a 5-star review is not going to report you. Someone who left you a bad review may decide, hey, this guy has violated my privacy. I'm going to report him. And you could get into trouble. Okay. But he literally, on this 5-star review that was positive, he basically said, thanks to what your case is going really well. Glad we can close that gap in your front teeth for you today. Like, that's not allowed. You can't do that. So be careful how you respond, positive or negatively. So this is a review response that was literally, this is probably 10 years ago now. Okay. But it just shows the promptness of the review. If you're going to respond, you want to do it quickly. Okay. I hate to do this, but I have to. I love all the staff and they do excellent work. And he yelled this, but every single time I've been here, the charge quoted is never even close to what I get charged. So I was actually out that evening and there was a mistake made by one of my team members. And I literally wrote, Jim, I will check it out when I get to the office and see what the issue is. Not sure about billing on the extraction. Should not have been charged any more than I stated. We'll follow up personally with you tomorrow, which I did. And the next day he got online and actually apologized for spewing venom, as he called it, on my Facebook page. So if you are going to be respond, you do want to be somewhat responsive. The timelier, the better. This, I wrote a book called Raving Patients. And one of the reviews that I show as a really great response is my oral surgeon, actually. And this was his response to a review, or their response to a review. Carl, I want to apologize and thank you for sharing your recent experience at our practice, Innovative Implant Oral Surgery. We take great pride in providing each patient with the best quality of personalized care. Unfortunately, on the day of your appointment, our servers went down, delaying our surgeries and appointments. We truly understand how valuable your time is and want to, again, apologize and thank you for your patience. We are actively working with our IT company to ensure unexpected disturbances to our servers do not happen again. Although our collective apologies will not change your experience, I hope you find comfort in knowing your feedback was taken seriously. That is the perfect response. There's nothing wrong with that. It's everything you should have done. You've apologized multiple times. You say we're going to fix the issue so it doesn't happen again. You can't get better than that. So bravo to this office. Now, compared to this is the antithesis of that. And this is a dentist who really makes jokes of writing bad reviews. And I've shown this many, many times. But I'll share with you some of these reviews. I'm in need of an emergency dental appointment based on some of the responses left for these unsatisfied clients. I will drive to the beach to another business. Thank you. We prefer not to see stupid people who make judgments without any knowledge. Second one, worst experience ever. I had to pay up front even though I had insurance. Was told I got reimbursed. We require payment up front because too many people lie about having dental insurance when they no longer have a job and thus no longer have dental insurance. And last but not least, the elderly woman in the reception area is one of the rudest individuals I've ever encountered. Very unprofessional. Now, just so you know, that's his mother. That's the doctor's mother. Wow. If we are so bad, why do you keep coming back? So, not the way you want to respond to these reviews, in my opinion. So again, can't take a poll. Nobody's listening to this except me talking to the computer. That was the worst experience I had at any dentist. That was the review. And this was a client of mine back in 2013, right when I started. The dentist reached out to me and said, I want to respond to this. I'm like, you don't. Because what they wrote was nothing specific. Okay? That was the worst experience. I didn't say anything about it. Now, we didn't have time to talk about Yelp. As I do, I have another lecture called Help on Yelp. If you're interested in seeing it, please reach out to me. But you also see on the upper left, there's no friends and 4 other reviews. So this person is not what Yelp would consider a Yelper. And if you ignore it and don't respond, it may be taken and put in the filter as Yelp has been known to do. Okay. But no, and by the way, guys, if you pay me, please take my advice. But they insisted on responding, and this was their response. And basically, there was nothing wrong with what they responded. They apologized, but they ended it. We hope that you found a reputable dentist that will provide you with the best care. And I don't think that was the best ending. But for those that are listening or watching, what happens when you respond to a review? That patient can re-respond to the review. Okay, and that's what happened here. So you'll see here, that review turned into this, that response turned into this. It was like a novel. So again, in my opinion, unless you know who the patient is and you know they're not crazy, you do not want to go ahead and respond to the review, or else you can turn into a situation that gets a lot worse. And this is here 8 years later, and many people have witnessed or seen the review online. Again, here's another one. Stay away, he is a sadist. This was a dentist who called me very upset. He kept me in pain for weeks with a post sticking straight up when his root canal, not a root canal, but a root canal, he was doing lingered on for weeks. Now, this dentist called me up so upset, and I told him, dude, you need to calm down. And I felt like he was throwing plates or cups or something breaking against the wall when I was talking to him. He was mad. Okay. So the dentist responded. Basically, the best response to this review is absurd. For actual patient reviews, see the filtered reviews here and Google reviews here. So there's a whole slew of information here. I just wouldn't respond like this. This can hurt you. This is a real life example of how I do it in my office. Again, I'm real here, guys. So this was a bad review I had gotten. To make a long story short, I am completely out of network with all insurances. When this patient came in, we called her MetLife insurance, and my front desk person was given what I felt at the time after seeing it was incorrect information. We had given her the cost, and when I looked at the insurance out-of-pocket stuff, and I was like, something's not right here. We need to recheck it. And when we rechecked it, we realized that we told her some wrong fees. So we told the patient that. The patient got really mad, said we were scammers, okay? And she posted these reviews on Facebook, Google, and Yelp. She hit the trifecta. And I just got a screenshot of what it looked like. So without even realizing, she actually left this review. I did not know at the time. I called her up, told her what the situation was, explained the situation. And it was basically the scaling root planings were just not covered the way they were supposed to be. And for my office, I felt that scaling root planings is not a high cost to me. It's my hygiene salary that I'm paying for. And I told the patient that I would eat the difference in the copay due to the error. I called her up on the phone, reached out to her, again, before I even knew this existed. And the next day, she changed the review to a 3-star review, which is much better than a 1-star review. And she made it these reviews. You see 3 reviews. It was Google, Yelp, and Facebook she changed. So I like reaching out to the patients. That's the most important thing I would tell you is if you know who the patient is, reach out and try to correct the problem. Okay. You can call them on the phone. You can email them. You can text them. Correct the issue. You may just see that the review comes down. Okay. The reason that patients are leaving bad reviews is they don't feel listened to. If they feel listened to, they're most likely not going to leave a negative review online. Okay. Here's another one. I got this review from a dentist who had not been to the dentist, from a patient who had not been to the dentist in probably 35 years. Okay. He had so much calculus on his teeth that when he smiled, everything was like a brick wall all over his teeth. And he wanted a free cleaning, and he wrote it. The deal is put out. It's not worth it at all. The staff is super friendly and amazing. Only the exam and cleaning was done. I was told that the initial base cleaning will be done, but you need the deep cleaning as well. I'm not disappointed on what the dentist has suggested, but they have this policy on their package so people can just think before they buy it. Well, I texted the guy. Here's the text communication. And I showed him that he did not qualify for it. And I asked him if he would take the review down, as I don't think it's a true reflection of the office. And I said, this is my cell phone. And he literally wrote back, I've taken down all the reviews I posted. I would really appreciate it if I can get the note stating I have gum disease. And he wrote, thank you. I will post a new and positive review based on the true reflection. So I've texted a lot of patients when I found out that they left a bad review. One of them was happening as I was flying cross country to California for the CDA a few years ago. And I texted the patient that I saw her review. I apologized for the way I had spoken to her. And she said, I just wanted to feel listened to, and she took the review down. So just reach out to these patients. And in my Facebook group, and I have a Facebook group called Raving Patients. For those that don't know it exists, feel free to join it. Which is Raving, RAVING, Patients. This is one of the dentists who reached out to me because she got this 1-star review from this patient. And I called her on the phone and we discussed it. I said, reach out on your own, tell the patient you're there to help them, and see what you can do for them. And if you fix their problem, they will leave a different review. So on January 20th at 5:14, there's this 1-star review on the left side. Next day, 21 hours later, Dr. Carr is very respectful and courteous. She has been our pediatric dentist for 8 years now. Our girls love her. And she wrote to me, like, I can't believe that they changed the review. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But this you see a lot. This is very common. This is not how you want to respond to a negative review. This was a dentist who got a 1-star review and wrote this long response. Your responses don't need to be this long. This, I think, will hurt you in the long run. So please try to avoid this long review response if possible. Now I'm going to show you some things that you should not be doing. So this was a dentist, an endodontist actually, in New York City that sued at least 4 patients for leaving a negative Yelp review, which is insane. So definitely don't sue a patient for a bad review. I get a lot of people who want to threaten a lawsuit. They want to reach out to a defamation attorney. The cost is going to be insane to have an attorney. Some of the attorneys are minimum $7,500 just to take a look at the case. So I advise you not to even go that direction. Simply the best response is getting more positives. But this endodontist, here's the review. Basically, the long story of this thing is that the patient waited a really long time to see the dentist. They were the dentist spoke to them for about 30 minutes. The rest of the time was spent in a chair without being offered water or a magazine. And at the end, they were sent back to the general dentist for a possible cavity. So the review wasn't really even that bad, okay? But the endodontist felt that he was going to sue the patient. They did, or they lost. The dentist lost. Was suing them for like $100,000 or $250,000. But this made national news. This made the news. Okay, it was all over the internet. You don't want to be on the internet like this. And basically on the Yelp page, they will get this badge. I call this a scarlet letter forever. Consumer alert, questionable legal threats. And they're trying to abuse the legal system in an effort to stifle free speech. So this is forever on their Yelp page, and you don't want to have this. This is not good for business. So this was two dentists who are partners in dentistry, and then they got divorced in dentistry. So they were no longer partners, and they wrote bad reviews about each other, and then they sued each other. Okay, so that's crazy. Okay, again, don't even think of suing somebody. Okay, because of fake reviews, it's just not worth it. So a perfect business isn't one with perfect reviews. It's one that deals with reviews and feedback perfectly. And I live my life like that. You have to know how to respond to these reviews. So how do you deal with negative reviews? Okay. So first off, as I told you, and I will say this many, many times, if you don't have that many negative reviews, you haven't been in business long enough. We're dentists, for God's sakes. Okay. It's called dental practice for a reason. It's not called dental perfect, because we're not perfect. We're far from it. Our business is running in a way that makes it an ability to have some issues. Okay. So you can't please everyone. You want to have a lot more positives than negatives. That's a really good proportion. A lot of positives to only a few negatives. You can respond, but I urge you to be careful if you respond, especially on Google. Okay. But most importantly, I want you to use the feedback constructively. So if someone says they're running late, you're running late. Okay. If they said there's billing practices that could be a problem, take it for what it's worth. Investigate why there's issues, why they're writing these bad reviews. They're not targeting you. I don't believe that your typical office is being targeted for negative reviews, some random person. I really don't. They're using aliases. Most patients will not use their real name if they intend to go back to the practice, because they don't want a problem. Now, just so you know, I will not let a patient back in my office if they write a 1-star review or a bad review for me, and they want to come back. So I won't. They have to remove the review if they're going to be a patient of mine. That just totally severs the trust relationship both ways. Again, just my opinion. So how can a bad review be good for your business? Well, it identifies areas of improvement. If they're bad reviews and they're misspelled, so they're like the root canal example, it makes you look real. It could make you more competitive, but I believe it turns an opportunity to turn your critics, which is the person writing the bad review, into your fan if you fix the problem and they correct it and they change the review online. Again, just keep that in mind. So here are some other examples of what not to do. And these are things that can get you in trouble online. So stop paying for reviews. You're not allowed to incentivize, especially on Google and Yelp, for any reason, okay, for a review, a positive review. Again, for a negative review, I don't know why you want to do that, but for a positive reviews, you're not allowed to incentivize them. So what is considered an incentive? Anything of value to the patient. Now, a very gray area is having a contest. So you're saying, okay, everybody who writes a positive review has a chance to win blank. There's a very gray area. I have some practices that have gotten into trouble with that. So you have to, if you get reported, which, one of your competitors may report you, you just got to err on the side of caution here. Very much caution. You don't want to sue patients or sue a dentist. This was a dentist who left a bad review about a competitor because they took a weekend, must be an Invisalign class for orthodontics. So this was an orthodontist who wrote a bad review about a general dentist. Stop doing that. That's insane. Now, I talked about incentivizing. Now, Yelp, again, another thing we know about Yelp is Yelp has what are called elite Yelpers. And they are very active Yelpers that Yelp incentivizes to basically go out there and meet businesses and then reports them if they are in fact doing something that's against Yelp's terms and conditions. And like I said, incentivizing for a review, it's against Yelp's terms and conditions. So here's an example. A user reported that the office of Monica Pardo in Glendora, California, was offering free tickets to Disney World. I think it's Disneyland though, because Disney World would be awfully far into Florida. So Disneyland in exchange for a 5-star review. Now, to me, tickets to Disneyland are expensive. So that's a very expensive way to get reviews. But they got called out on it, and this is like a blog post that Yelp puts out every month, showing the businesses that did not understand their terms and conditions. So that was Monica Pardo. This is Premier Dental Care. A dental office incentivizing patients to write a review in exchange for a $30 credit to their next visit. So it went from tickets to Disneyland, to a $30 credit towards their next visit. Significant Orthodontics was incentivizing 5-star reviews in exchange for a free whitening pen. So tickets to $30 to a whitening pen, which is like $5. You cannot incentivize in any way, shape, or form. Please, please don't do that. Because if you do, you will get this scarlet letter here, and they show it right here. As consumer alerts remain on the businesses for 90 days. So you don't want to get that scarlet letter that says you've been paying for reviews. Another question I get a lot of is, should my practice use a kiosk to get new reviews? So this is also very much against the rules. You cannot have a computer, whether it's a computer or an iPad, getting reviews for you on Google or Yelp because of a couple reasons. So number one is definitely Wi-Fi. You have the same Wi-Fi address. They're going to see the reviews are coming from the same actual location. Google's going to want to take these down. So that's a very big no-no. You don't want to do that. Okay. So no, and the other thing is location services on the phone. So even if they're in your physical location, their Wi-Fi is turned off, you don't want to get an exorbitant number of reviews from this kiosk or from this computer. Or even if patients are doing it on their phones, you don't want too many people on the phone doing it from the same location. Again, they'll track it and they'll see they're all coming from the physical location, and you may lose some reviews. I've seen some practices who got caught in this, and there's no questions asked. They just take the reviews down. One practice, a pretty known practice in Delray Beach, they had like 1,500 reviews, and something triggered them to say they were doing something illegally, and Google took literally, they had 275 reviews remaining. So they lost like 1,300 reviews. Turns out they were doing something similar to this. And here's the Yelp consumer alert. Number of reviews originating from the same IP address. So you don't want to end up with this on your office for 90 days. That's a problem. So sometimes, honestly, the most important sense is your common sense. So I want you to use common sense when it comes to figuring out if it's best to respond, ignore, reach out to the patient offline, but don't do anything stupid. No suing a patient, okay? No, look, you can threaten a lawsuit. You can send a cease and desist letter if you have a friend who's an attorney. It's not going to cost you any money. That's risk-free, but taking a patient to court because of a bad review is insane, in my opinion. So now that we discussed the bad reviews, how to deal with them, which it's either going to be ignore it, respond appropriately, or just get more positives to overwhelm it. Those are the three main reasons what you want to do with a bad review. Let's talk about how to get found in a compelling way, which is generating more positive reviews. So patient reviews are now one of the biggest factors in local search results. And there's new rules from Google. So you want them to be a regular velocity, at least a couple a week, at least, maybe more. You want them within the last 2 months, ideally within the 2 weeks. So 50% of the population is happy, if you remember that graph. And the rating you want to be is 4.5 to 4.9 stars. So I think everybody would agree, is you must collect reviews from your happy patients. But I don't want you to ask for a review. I want you to ask for feedback about the patient's experience. So it changes the entire conversation if you do it this way. Okay? Patients, if you ask for a review, it's like you're begging for it. Can you give me a review, please? I can really use it. Versus, hey, thanks for coming in today. We hope you had this great experience. We would love to get some feedback about your experience. That works great, and more patients will be happy to do it if you do it that way, if you ask it that way. So let's talk about some of the ineffective ways of getting reviews. So one of the most ineffective ways, and the cheapest way, but it's ineffective, is literally asking a patient. If you ask 100 patients, you're lucky if 3 to 5% do it, so 3 or 5 reviews. I think your office is going to get very frustrated if they're doing just a ton of asking, but they're not getting the results that they expect from it. So I would urge you to be careful how much you're asking, because you're going to get very limited results. You can also give them this card with this QR code on it. QR codes are very popular at trade shows, so you can get the patient's information. Not many people are using it in this consumer way, but this is an option. You can scan the code and they can write the review. Not used very often, though. Here's a card that your hygienist would put in their hygiene bag with the appointment reminder and their toothbrush and toothpaste. So how did we do today? And there's 3 options for writing a review. This doesn't work very well. I actually love this one. This is South Tampa Dentistry. This is an old card. It says log into your Google account from a computer connected to the internet. You have to tell them to turn it on too then. And if you look, the card actually has a blue field on it. It's hyperlinked. So if you actually click the card, you can click it, it takes you to that place. Of course, that doesn't work, okay? But it's a very funny card. And then you have all of these, what I would call communication softwares. And I personally use Modento. I think it's a fabulous product. I used to be a revenue user for a number of years. I previously used Lighthouse and Demandforce. So I have a lot of experience in this space. And most of these reviews are going to the microsite of the company, like RevenueL is Patient 365. Lighthouse just changed to WebMD from Rate of Business. Solution Reach used to be called Smile Reminder, and the Demand Force is the Demand Force page. So most of these companies are sending the reviews not to Google directly, and you'll end up with 1,000 reviews on these sites that you risk losing when you switch away from this company. So they're great products. It's a must for your practice. If you don't have one, you have to get one to be effective in running your front desk. Okay, but they're not going to generate reviews for you. So here are reasons, and I've surveyed a lot of people, a lot of offices, a lot of people in this space. And here are reasons why your patients don't leave Google reviews. And what I always like to play, this is like, the top 8 answers on the board. And there's actually 9 answers. One's hidden for right now. But these are the reasons why patients give you. They don't have time. They forget. There's too many steps involved. Out of sight, out of mind, just like when they miss scheduling their recare, they don't remember to even schedule it. They don't know what to write. They don't know how to do it. Now, some patients don't have a Google account. And for those that are wondering, if a patient doesn't have a Google account, they can't do a Google review. Okay. They have to get a Google account. Now, the Google account does not have to be a Gmail address to be clear. Okay. But yet they have to have a Google account to write a Google review. You cannot be anonymous either. You can use an alias, but you cannot be anonymous. They don't have a Google account, and they are not asked to write a review. Those are the reasons why I've been given, and I kind of put them in no particular order here. But there's one answer that isn't showing, and this is by far the number one answer why patients don't do a Google review online when asked. And the answer is they don't know their Google password. And when you're doing a Google review, you have to log in and have to remember your password, and many people don't know that. So I told you I was going to spend a couple minutes briefly talking about what Baird can do. We are an integrated platform. We work with almost 98% of the practices on in the market. The practice management software is in the market, but these are just some examples of the ones we work with. And we are basically a mobile-friendly product because we want to send mobile apps or mobile text messages to the patients. And the reason why is here. These are patients of mine. 94,000 unread text messages. And the second person was 113,000 emails, unread emails. Sorry, 94,000 unread emails and 113,000 unread emails. So when you look at this and you think, well, if they have that many unread emails, they're not going to open an email from you in most cases. Now, what I normally do is I kind of poll the audience. This is a fun little contest I have. So I ask everybody to take out their phones, read how many unread emails they have out loud, and they can yell and scream it. And whoever has the most, I normally give a little bit of a gift card to. So if you want to message me with your information, I would love, or a screenshot of what you have. But I do this at every one of my seminars, and this is the largest I've ever seen. This person has 425,162 unread emails, which is insane if you think about it. So if you have a lot, please send it to me. I would love to see it because I would love to put it into the seminar here. But those same people have very few unread text messages. So the unread text messages for most people are 0 or 1, okay, maybe 2. So they definitely are opening their text messages a whole lot more. So this is an example of a text message that Baird sends out. This is sent out at the end of the day automatically through the practice management software that we integrate with. There's some limitations. I'm not going to waste your time here, but it's limited based on a number of different factors. Again, if you want to ask any information or any information about Baird, just reach out to me and I can run you through a personalized demo. But this is what the message looks like. Now, when they click on the message, this is an example of what the patient can read or see. We hope that your experience exceeded your expectations and that you want to write a positive review. However, if you're not completely satisfied, we hope you will contact us directly to make things right. And Google and Facebook are green and contact us directly is red. This is like a traffic light where green means good, means to go, and red means stop, and it just stops. So good, green is good, red is stop. And 98, we have about 9,000 clients, 98.2, 98.3% of the time, if the patient has an issue, they're hitting the red button to contact you directly. And when they hit that button, we apologize. Please tell us how we can improve, and that feedback sent by email directly back to the practice, and you can respond, which also is emailed back to the patient. So here's an example of how this plays out. So to give you some background story here, this was literally over Thanksgiving weekend a couple of years ago. So it was probably on a Thursday or Friday. This was direct feedback that I received from this patient. He had just come in. He started to pay for a bridge on his lower, I think it was a six unit lower anterior bridge. And he wrote, your staff are awesome and obviously exceptional in your field, but for the price for what I wanted is really overpriced for me. I was secretly hoping you were going to work with me more. Now, if he was secretly hoping, how would I have known to potentially offer him a discount of services? So I got this, and he wrote this whole rigmarole of a feedback to me, and I responded basically, I'm happy to give you a discount. Please let me know what is needed to get it done. And then he responded right back, I honestly appreciate the fact you'll talk to me about price. I sincerely appreciate it and happily accept what you're willing to adjust towards the total. I know I stated in my email that I felt the price was heavy. I probably went overboard in making that point. The point I honestly and poorly made was that you and your staff are awesome. I could easily have left after the first visit and never come back. Sorry for all the confusion. Why you're not sleeping, you're always working. Have a great holiday. So this is what that happens. That's why I love this feature. I love getting feedback back to me. And this is what happens. Patients are happy to write to me knowing I'm going to read it and I'm going to respond. So if you're getting feedback and not responding, the patients may not appreciate that. Okay. So on that note, real quick, an example of taking feedback seriously is someone writes back, every time I come in, I have a long wait, basically. Your waiting periods are too long. Well, you make a note in the chart that the next time that patient has an appointment, you take them right back. They'll know that you read the review or the feedback, and you change their business. They'll really appreciate that. That's how you turn your critics into your biggest fans. Okay, so this is an example of how Bird Eye generates the review. You're going to see a video here of exactly what Bird Eye does. Okay, the reason why we are so successful is we eliminate the most important or the hardest step for the patient, which is to log into Google, because they don't remember their Google password. Okay, even though they have it on an Android, you don't need to, but on an iPhone, you have to log in. So watch this. This is the process the patient goes through. So what they do here is they click the link, we scan their phone, and we log them in to write the review in one step. So that's a very easy process. There's very few companies that offer this technology, as well as knowing which phone they have. So we know if they have an Android or an iPhone, and we give them separate choices. So I really love this sign, how to easily and quickly write a Google review. It's 14 steps long. That's the problem for patients. Quickly and easily is not this. Quickly and easily is just what I showed you. So Bird Eye does a whole lot more. So if you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out to me and I can walk you through all the different platforms. We have a brand new referral product that's fabulous. We have some text messaging options. We have a video chat option. We have now a survey option, so you can send a survey before the review. So we've got some really cool features. So I showed you in the very beginning a bad review that I had received from that patient, Brittany. Well, the same exact day, this was a patient who came in. She's actually a dentist now. I treated her when she was a dental student, and she's become this really good dentist in the Philadelphia area. But she wrote to me, she wrote a review that same day. Always a great experience, no matter what you come here for. I'm a dentist myself. I can tell an okay dentist from great. I wouldn't trust my own oral health to Dr. Tau if it wasn't anything but great. Dentistry and team, highly recommend. So this is how my day ended. So it started off really bad. And by the end of the day, when I got this really good review, it changed significantly. So keep that in mind. You know, I don't want you to, as I said, a bad review may spoil your breakfast, but you don't want it to spoil your lunch. Okay. You're going to get a more positive review at some point to overcome that negative anyway. It's going to suck for a little bit. You're going to feel horrible probably, but just don't sweat the small stuff. That's what I always say. So what are the best practices for online reviews? It has to become a part of your daily routine. It needs to be everyday part of your business. It has to be simple, as I've said to you. If it's not simple, the patients simply are not going to do it. Your rankings, which we didn't talk about just because this was on bad reviews, but your rankings or your reviews can help your Google rankings. More reviews, better citations, or more consistent citations, the better ranking on the maps you're going to have. The best way to overcome a bad review is to overwhelm them with good reviews. You don't want to fake anything. The reviews need to be real. You want to learn the terms of service of encouraging reviews, like on Yelp and Google. Each one has different terms and services. Do not own the reviews. Don't overreact. Dealing with bad reviews can be a tricky task. Overreacting can be worse, major so. You don't want to react emotionally. Vigilance is the best weapon against the bad reviews. Reviews are a tool. Think of them as a tool for your practice, not a hindrance. They can bring you great success. Spread the wealth, help other areas, and leave a review for them. And the abundance pays goodwill you spread might just return back to you. So other businesses who use your services may decide they want to leave a positive review as well. So in conclusion, your reputation is your most valuable asset. You do now have control over your reviews, and you have control over bad reviews too. Negative reviews can create a buzz if handled appropriately. The best strategy for handling bad reviews is simply getting more good reviews. And I've said that for years. I've never come off that soapbox. Offices with perfect reviews look inauthentic, so you don't have to worry if you get a couple negatives. And most importantly, you want to ask your happy patients to provide feedback about their experiences in your office. The more you do that, whether it's asking by just verbally or using some type of software, this is important. So a couple of things about me before we wrap up. I have a podcast, comes out Fridays at 1 p.m. It's called the Raving Patients Podcast. It's not only about online reviews anymore. It's about growing your practice. I've had about 160, 170 episodes now. So if you're interested in becoming a guest, talking about something you think is interesting, reach out to me. If you want to listen, that would be great as well. So the Raving Patients Podcast. I have a Facebook group, as I mentioned, called Raving Patients. So you can simply search on Facebook. It will ask you a couple of quick questions. If you know somebody already in the group, it will automatically let you in. This is a great resource. I love when members post a bad review. We can all tell them what to do, ignore, respond. There's a lot of help with marketing. It's not just about online reviews anymore. Okay, it's grown to a whole bigger thing. We have just shy of about 3,000 members. I have a book called Raving Patients. I'm actually offering it for free. If you have interest in my book, you just have to pay for shipping for it. Please reach out to me. Normally it's $20, but I've been giving away. But it's available on Kindle as well. If you want to read the Kindle version, go to Amazon, look for it. I'm in the process of writing a second book as well, called 100 Tips to 100 Reviews in 100 Days. Hopefully it's out soon. This is my information, my contact information, my cell phone number, my email address, and a place to schedule a demo if you want to see it, or you can just email me and we can set up a conversation. So here it is for your people. I would take a screenshot of this or just rewind it. I don't want to keep this up for too long. This is the price of Baird. I put some pricing on here. There's a special for Nifty Thrifty members. Glenn should know this, but it's discounted $50 a month or $600 a year for Nifty Thrifty people. But I ask you don't contact Baird directly. I run their dental division. They would want me, if you contact them through the normal channels, to charge a regular pricing, not through the discount here. So you've got my email and my cell phone here to reach out to me. This is the other things that Baird does. We have a lot more than reviews. Like I said, we have listings. We have something called pages. We have a feature called interactions, surveys, referrals. We're a whole all-in-one patient experience platform is really what we do. So I hope you enjoyed this. We are coming up just about an hour from now. Please contact me if you have any questions. I thank Glenn Vo for inviting me again. I'm glad that he wanted my expertise in this space. Handling a bad review is tough. If you have questions or you need advice, either reach out to me directly or put something in the Facebook group and we will respond with some answers. Don't feel bad if you got a bad review. It's not the end of the world. It does happen. And reviews are really important. They will grow your business. Bad reviews can hurt your business, as I showed you. And I always close my webinars or seminars or whatever I'm doing, my podcast especially, with 2 words, and you see them right here. And this is my life right now. Remember, your reputation matters. Again, thanks for joining me, and I'll wait for some questions. And thanks again.
Dentists, need more quality new patients? MVP Mailhouse can help. Winning direct mail for winning dental practices. MVP has the most advanced tech when it comes to direct mail. Get better targeting with Map IQ. You can focus on the hottest neighborhoods around your practice based on existing patients. Better design with Design Lab. Choose from our gallery or request something completely original. You can customize your design and ask for revisions anytime, anywhere. Better tracking with Call Pro. Listen to calls, get notified about new appointments, and follow up on missed opportunities, and help your staff improve their phone skills. Better results with Matchback Audit. MVP evaluates campaign performance after every mailing to help you improve your future campaigns and get even better results. Call us today or go to www.mvpmailhouse.com/Nifty Spring and get a free design.
Our next speaker is Katrina Sanders. Katrina Sanders is a clinical dental hygienist, author, and international speaker. She is a vibrant, passionate, and charismatic, and also an award-winning educator with a unique approach to delivering continuing education. She is currently the clinical liaison, hygiene excellence, and innovation specialist for Arizona Perio, which is the country's largest periodontal practice. She works alongside the diplomats of American Board of Periodontology to instruct on collaborative professionalism and also standard of care protocols while delivering education through hygiene boot camps and study clubs. Known as the dental consultant, Katrina is a dental hygiene consultant focused at high-level standards, excellence, and production. She's the founder, CEO, and keynote speaker for Sanders Board Preparatory and is a published author with RDH Magazine, Inside Dental Hygiene, Oral Health Group, Dental Town, and also today's RDH. We are excited to bring you an expert perspective with today's presentation, 2020 Vision on Dentistry, a post-COVID-19 survey.
"2020 Vision on Dentistry. Now more than ever, as we continue to rise and thrive in our post-COVID-19 era, now more than ever, it is imperative for dentistry to identify the ways in which we need to put our lenses, so to speak, on the right ways for us to continue to proceed based on the things that we learned and have understood in this current global health and financial crisis. My name is Katrina Sanders, and I will be your host for the Nifty Thrifty Virtual Summit as we unpack creating a 2020 vision for where we go from here. I think we can all agree that this current global health crisis and global financial crisis is one that perhaps we were not necessarily prepared for. However, we have absolutely had the opportunity to look at some of the things that have occurred in our previous history. Things like the Spanish flu of 1918. And we have been able to understand that with regards to some of these other global health and financial crises that our country has faced, that now more than ever, it's our opportunity to critically look at the steps that we need to take to be safe and to be able to efficiently treat our community while optimizing their health, their wellness, and their vitality. The similarities between the Spanish flu of 1918 and subsequently what we know now about COVID-19 expand beyond simply what we know about our current health crisis. We also understand that when we experience as a nation a health and financial crisis of this type of proportion, that it absolutely can change the way that the community and society sees the healthcare profession. We've seen, for example, other pandemics and epidemics change the way that people politically or financially see the work that we do. And so now more than ever, as we continue to unpack the similarities between some of our historical health crises and, of course, what we have seen today, now more than ever, it means that we have an opportunity within the dental space to change the way that the community sees the good work that we do within the dental profession. My name is Katrina Sanders, and I am honored and humbled to be here today, presenting alongside an incredible faculty of speakers here building to help support you, the dental professional, in looking at the ways in which you can curate and evolve within the good work that you do within your practices. Today's program is going to provide us with 2020 vision, so to speak. First, we're going to begin by taking a glance at the landscape of the dental industry. I say in this post-COVID-19 era, but I think we can all agree that even now, as we're attending this virtual summit, that the understanding that we have now is still one where we are living and thriving within this still current health crisis. We're going to look at the ways in which we can optimize patient care modifications in order to safely and efficiently treat our patient populations while also controlling the spread of disease. And finally, we're going to view new practice modalities, ways to optimize reaching our patient populations with a renewed sense of awareness, understanding, value, and heightened perception in the importance of overall health. So to begin, let's take a look in that rear view mirror, shall we? Let's glance back at where it is that we came from. How is it that we're here today? How did dentistry evolve so rapidly? And yet it felt like when the global shutdown occurred that we were at a standstill. And for many of us, that begins by understanding first and foremost that for a long time, perhaps we have been practicing in the petri dish, so to speak, of dentistry. That for a long time, there have been pieces of information about the infection control mitigation strategies that we should be implementing within our clinical practice. And unfortunately, although a lot of these pieces have been published for well over a decade or two, many of us openly admit that we were not following those mitigation strategies. Specifically, when we looked at the work that dental hygienists and dentists were instituting, and when we specifically look at the generation of aerosols in the dental operatory, we acknowledged that things like utilizing high volume evacuation for the dental hygienist, or using high volume evacuation with a rubber dam for isolation with the doctor, utilizing pre-procedural mouth rinses, or wearing the appropriate face mask or shield were not common layers, were not common pieces that were routinely utilized in dental practices prior to this pandemic. In fact, about 63% of dental hygienists who were surveyed during the global pandemic reported that prior to this pandemic, they were not delivering pre-procedural mouth rinses on their patients prior to mechanized scaling. 84% of dental hygienists reported not using high-speed or high-volume evacuation during mechanized scaling. In fact, less than half of our states across the United States claim to follow Centers for Disease Control and Prevention infection control guidelines. And even now, during this global health crisis, about a quarter of dental professionals are not wearing a face shield, and a little under half of dental professionals are not routinely wearing an N95 mask when generating aerosols in the dental operatory. One may say that we were caught with our scrub pants around our ankles, so to speak, when this pandemic happened. And that although there are so many pieces and layers that we understood we needed to be doing, many of us weren't. And that brought us to having to critically look at what we understand about mitigation strategies and infection control. It required doctors to have to order pieces of equipment, foggers, HEPA filtration systems, PPE. It required dental hygienists to integrate additional layers into their care. It required more time. We are wearing more layers. Our patients are experiencing a new and revitalized component to the work that we do. But a lot of that begins foundationally by understanding what we know about the chain of infection. And so first and foremost, it's important for us to understand what our role is as the dental clinician in addressing the chain of infection as it relates to airborne diseases. Now remember, a chain of infection, and we're going to be building one throughout this program today, a chain of infection is the scaffolding or the steps or layers that need to occur within an infectious process in order for a true infection to occur. Our goal as clinicians is to break the chain of infection at as many points along the chain as possible to stop the potential propagation of infection in our patients or in ourselves. So let's begin by looking at what it is that we know now about SARS-CoV-2 as it relates to the chain of infection, beginning at the top with an infectious agent. We know we need to have an infectious agent in order to cause a bacterial, viral, fungal, etc. type of an infection. And we've all seen what this coronavirus looks like, called the coronavirus because the crown of spike glycoproteins or S proteins that kind of move around the envelope. A few things to know that are going to be important to us when we talk about the chain of infection. The average diameter of this virus particulate is 0.12 microns. The actual body itself is about 0.08 microns, and each spike glycoprotein is about 0.02 microns. So all the way across, we're looking at 0.12 microns. That's important because when we look at the PPE that we're wearing or even our HEPA filtration systems, we're oftentimes looking at equipment that will help filter out anything 0.1 microns or larger. And so with this pandemic, we're able to institute more protective modalities a lot faster because of the size of this particular virus. One other thing for us to notate is this concept behind the angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptor. Not only do we have an infectious agent, but the infectious agent, in this case the virus, has to be able to have an opportunity to latch into a host. That's how viruses propagate. They latch into a host somewhere along the cellular membrane, and they change the messenger RNA of the host. What we found with SARS-CoV-2 specifically is that SARS-CoV-2 loves to fit into these little receptors. Think about these like little doorways that this receptor can enter into, that the SARS-CoV-2 virus can enter into. And this particular type of virus loves to enter into these angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors. These receptors are present throughout the body and are on the surface of many different cell types. These receptors are present in tissues like the lungs, the heart, the blood vessels, kidneys, liver, and GI tract. This receptor is also located on the epithelium of the nose, the mouth, and the lungs, and subsequently it is highly expressed in salivary tissue. It is believed that when a patient has inflammatory conditions or high blood pressure, that they may have more of these receptors throughout their body. Why is that important for us to know? Because if our patients have inflammation or if they have hypertension, these are patients who may have more doorways, more portals of entry, more opportunities for the virus to be able to latch into the host and to create an infectious disease process. So we have our infectious agent. If we come in contact with the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the next step in the chain of infection, if we're not able to break the chain here and to stop this agent with some type of an antiviral, is to look at our reservoir. The reservoir is the place where a virus will be able to grow and thrive. And we know that we can have reservoirs like human beings or animals. But one thing that we have seen as a concern is that the dental unit waterline could be an efficient reservoir for SARS-CoV-2. We saw water lines and water pathways and wastewater pathways as an excellent reservoir for SARS-CoV-1 in 2003 and 2004. And so now is the opportunity for us to take a look at how we're treating our dental unit water lines, ensuring that we're instituting modalities like flushing our lines at the beginning of every day and in between patients to remove any loosely adherent debris, maybe utilizing EPA regulatory standard water, testing our water, utilizing a chemical debridement or a chemical shock based on our manufacturer guidelines, and ensuring that if our ultrasonic unit has a filtration system, that filter is being replaced appropriately. We also know that human beings can be a reservoir, that we can allow the virus itself to grow in a human. And so, absolutely, most of us have instituted patient screening forms that are now being instituted across the United States before patients even sit down in our chair to identify if they are potentially at risk. But we've seen a couple of other more subtle signs or symptoms of a patient experiencing SARS-CoV-2. One of these is COVID toes. These photos come to us courtesy of my sister, Dr. Elizabeth Sanders, who is a foot and ankle surgeon. And notice here, this patient has microclogs or clots. The blood vessels within the toes become clotted from the experience of COVID. And so we see either red lesions or true clotting within the toes. We also are seeing some characteristics of viral infections, such as the enethym, which we see here on the soft palate, very characteristic for a patient who's experiencing any type of a viral infection from hand, foot, and mouth or Coxsackie disease to measles, chickenpox, and COVID-19. But we're also seeing this observation of COVID tongue that we believe may be responsible for some of the transient taste disorder that we're seeing with some of our patients. And one final layer that we do have some concerns about are our asymptomatic carriers, our asymptomatic patients. And so, unfortunately, we can't really screen for symptoms with these individuals. We look at, have you been in contact with somebody who's COVID positive? Or maybe we ask if they've traveled to a hotspot. But other than that, for a long time, we didn't really know how we could potentially screen asymptomatic carriers. Well, and now we've been instituting the utilization of a pulse ox reading. Now, pulse ox is your typical blood saturation reading, and this is something that is typically done in an office that does a lot of sleep apnea or sleep disorder evaluations, or patients that are constantly being sedated. But what we found is that patients who are otherwise asymptomatic may show up on a pulse ox reading. Notably, patients that presented with silent hypoxia, these are patients that have a very low pulse ox, but don't know that they have a low pulse ox. They're not complaining of difficulty on breathing. They're not complaining of diminished lung capacity. These patients are walking around with no challenges whatsoever, yet they have silent hypoxia. That these are individuals who may likely be experiencing a COVID infection. So many dental practices have instituted the utilization of gathering pulse ox as another vital sign to screen for potentially asymptomatic carriers of SARS-CoV-2. If the virus is allowed to thrive in a reservoir, whether that is a patient who comes in with the infection, whether that is a staff member, whether that is our dental unit water line, if the virus is allowed to thrive in the reservoir and we have not broken that chain of infection, the next step in the chain of infection is the portal of exit, the ability for the virus itself to leave. And of course, we understand that part of that is in aerosols. And aerosols, for the most part, are relatively disorganized. Like somebody just releases a bundle of balloons, and that lack of organization is going to be very important for us to understand when we look at mitigation strategies. Now, aerosols are going to be very small, very difficult to see with the naked eye, less than 50 microns, and these aerosols remain suspended in air for a long period of time and can travel far distances based upon airflow. These aerosols also have the opportunity to penetrate into the alveoli. And so when we critically look at aerosol production, we acknowledge that these aerosols are not just the spray that you see coming out of your dental equipment, but rather this aerosol production is in things just like when an individual is talking or breathing. We can see advanced aerosol droplets in an individual who sneezes or coughs. And of course, the concern for us in dentistry is that we generate mixed aerosols, where there's a combination of maybe water spray, saliva, maybe including the complex moist surface itself of the tongue. And when aerosols are being generated from doctor's handpiece or a hygienist's instrumentation, that there's a slurry of crevicular fluid, blood, pulverized biofilm, enamel, tooth structure, restorative materials, respiratory secretions, all generated at a high velocity. And that high velocity creates a situation where not only does the virus have an opportunity to have a portal of exit, but it's entered into the aerosol, which then creates a high-level mode of transmission. A concern for us in dentistry, of course, is that our equipment generates those aerosols. We're looking at things like ultrasonic scalers, high-speed handpieces, which according to Steve Harrell, produce more airborne contamination than any other instrument in dentistry. In fact, one of the things that we have notated most specifically when it comes to the generation of aerosols is that we're not just concerned about SARS-CoV-2, but rather we are exposed to incredible amounts of bacteria, viruses, funguses, yeasts, various types of species that are constantly being introduced airborne. And that elevates our risk as a clinician of experiencing advanced respiratory infections like acute bronchitis, the common cold, influenza, pharyngitis, pneumonia, SARS, sinusitis, or tuberculosis. Now, this is just a very small breakdown of the different types of species that we can encounter, but it's important for us to understand that although this conversation really is critically looking at what we know about SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus or COVID-19 infection, that it's important for us to take what we know now and apply this into lasting strategies so that if we experience another airborne infection, if we experience another crisis like this, that dentistry is prepared. One of the ways that we know to do that is through the integration of high volume evacuation. Now, I will tell you, this was taken before the pandemic happened. This is a video of me August of 2019. I'm working on my brother here. You may even be able to see in the video the TV screen in the corner that says August of 2019. But at that time, I was an advocate for utilizing high volume evacuation systems with our aerosol generating procedures because of what we know about what these aerosols can mean for us. We understand that one of the best ways to control the particulates of aerosols before they leave the mouth is by instituting high volume evacuation. Now, the challenge is doctors typically work with either a rubber dam and or a dental assistant holding a high volume evacuation system. Dental hygienists don't typically work with an assistant holding a high volume evacuation system. And so hygienists have gotten comfortable in utilizing a saliva ejector to gather pooled fluids in the corner of the mouth. The challenge, of course, simply being that that's exactly what a saliva ejector is used for, gathering pooled saliva, gathering pooled fluids. What a saliva ejector is not prepared for is the gross removal of aerosol particulates that are generated from our equipment. The saliva ejector has a small diameter, which does not permit it to be effective in the removal of aerosols. A standard high volume evacuation tip has the ability to remove minimum of 90, upwards of 98% of aerosols, regardless of source, before it leaves the mouth. And so, of course, one of our best strategies in controlling the mode of transmission is to remove these aerosols before they leave the mouth. One other piece that we have seen in reducing modes of transmission are things like looking at air changes per hour, instituting HEPA filtration systems, or even fogging, spraying the air with various types of decontaminants to reduce the concentration or the virulence of aerosols that are generated during dental procedures. However, if we are unable to control these aerosols, the next step in the chain of infection moves us into the portal of entry, so to speak. The portal of entry means the place, the mucosal membrane, where this virus is able to enter. And of course, for a long time, many of us thought that maybe we could experience this type of a virus through contact surfaces. So we were wiping down everything that came in from Amazon Prime, Postmates, Uber Eats, you name it, we were wiping it down. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I do think we need to continue to control these aerosols. However, what we know now is that SARS-CoV-2 is primarily entering the body through mucosal membranes. The nose, the mouth, potentially the eyes, possibly the ears. And so we've seen from a general public standpoint, us instituting things that were instituted during the 1918 Spanish flu. Things like face coverings that we've instituted in public, depending on what state you live in. or even the utilization of various types of respirators, again, instituted during the 1918 Spanish flu to control the spread of this airborne disease, and now the current coronavirus pandemic as well being utilized. We know as dental professionals, we have also instituted the utilization of personal protective equipment in a high-level way. Wearing things like an ASTM level 3 mask or a face shield over that, or a minimum of an N95 respirator of sorts, or KN95. We've instituted things like wearing a hair cap, personal protective equipment that's either laundered in between patients or personal protective equipment that is disposed of in between patients, shoe coverings, or washing our scrubs or leaving our scrubs at the office or taking our scrubs off before we go home to our families. And these are all things that we knew to do when we were in dental and dental hygiene school. These are all steps that we did institute when we were in the educational setting, and these are all things that the CDC, OSHA, and most of our state board dental examiners had encouraged us to do. And so now more than ever, this is our opportunity to critically evaluate which of these entities we're going to continue to remain in our direct patient care. Concluding with the final piece in the chain of infection. So if a patient is allowed to come in contact with SARS-CoV-2 and that SARS-CoV-2 is able to grow or thrive in a reservoir of sorts, that reservoir is able to exit the reservoir and transmit into a new host, the host has to be susceptible. They have to experience a layer of susceptibility, meaning that for whatever physiologic reason, that individual can readily receive the virus. And we talked about one of those susceptibility entities earlier when we looked at patients that have high blood pressure or inflammatory conditions in which they may have more angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors, meaning they have more portals or doorways permitting the entrance of the virus into the host. We saw early on in March of 2020, that the majority of individuals who were hospitalized with COVID-19 had some type of an underlying condition. These were things like hypertension, obesity, lung disease, diabetes, or cardiovascular disease. And even more so as we continue to critically look at risk factors associated with COVID-19, we understand, for example, that the majority of deaths right now in the United States occurring from COVID-19 are in individuals 65 and older. We see that cardiovascular disease absolutely runs in tandem with COVID-19, that patients that experience a viral illness will experience an increased risk of heart attack, likely due to the buildup, clogs, or clots within their blood vessels. We understand that patients that have airway or lung diseases could have scarring or damaging of their lining of their airway, thus elevating the risk of experiencing COVID-19. And our diabetic patients not only, of course, have challenges with elevated blood sugar, which can create a gorgeous environment for our virus to thrive, but also they have delayed wound healing and a weakened immune system, making them perfectly prone for this type of a virus. Early on in the pandemic, we looked at not only what populations were prone, but also what professions were prone. And I think we can all remember the statistic that unpacked the fact that dental hygienists ranked the #1 profession for elevated risk of SARS-CoV-2 contraction in the workplace, followed shortly thereafter by our dental assistants and our doctors. And this was because of the proximity, the amount of time that we spend within a 6-foot radius of our patients, the fact that our patients are removing their masks, and we are likely generating aerosols during the procedure. However, when the reality came out, when the estimations moved aside, and when we truly looked at what we understood about the research, it was very clear that COVID-19 rate amongst dentists in the United States was very low. Actually, Mia Geisinger and her crew published this in JADA, indicating that less than 1% of dental professionals experienced SARS-CoV-2 transmission during oral health care delivery. And so this provides some information for us about the mitigation strategies, noting specifically that what we were doing as far as instituting pre-procedural mouth rinses, medicaments that can help attenuate the virus or have antiviral components, screening our patients, screening for potential asymptomatic patients, wearing the appropriate amount of PPE, high volume evacuation and additional aerosol mitigation strategies from a layered approach helped protect us from experiencing the virus. But although we could physically protect ourselves and although we could physically protect our patients, the reality is that our patients outside of the operatory were experiencing other advanced challenges like furlough, job loss. Many of our patients had to file for stimulus or unemployment. They experienced a lack of abundance or a lack of necessary ingredients. How scary was it for us to walk up and down the aisles of the grocery store and see empty shelves? This fear, this mass chaos, this panic that ensued was a fear of infection, a desire to purchase hand sanitizer and bleach for health and vitality, and to provide our families and ourselves with freedom from health risks. And so now is our opportunity to examine where it is that we go from here. We looked in the rearview mirror at the things that we knew, and we understand how it is that we got here. So now we need to really identify what next. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for dentistry? And what does this mean for our patients? Well, in 2020, we experienced some challenges. First and foremost, we had a shutdown. And when that shutdown occurred, whatever length of time that meant for you in your state, that dental shutdown delayed visits, not just visits in the hygiene department, but visits across dentistry. So from a financial standpoint, absolutely there were some challenges. But even more so, our patients watched as the World Health Organization instituted fear because they warned our patients that you shouldn't be going to the dentist unless you absolutely needed to. Non-emergent, non-invasive procedures could be delayed. And so financially, that meant that doctors' overhead was going up and practice owners were not bringing in an income. It also meant that our patients were experiencing a delay in their routine dental visits. Our patients were experiencing stress. They were stressed out by this pandemic, by the challenges with work, this health, financial and health crisis. They were gathering poor sleep. And because they were stressed, they experienced oral inflammation, and maybe they instituted bruxism in addition to other poor habits like tobacco habits and alcohol consumption. Our patients were waking up in the morning and sitting down at their computers to perform Zoom meetings all day. They were not concerned with oral hygiene status. And so poor oral hygiene has been instituted, and in fact, just 2 weeks ago, a research study came out that verified for us that our patient population, for the first time, they have never in their life brushed their teeth less, flossed their gums less, or utilized any type of interdental aid less than they are right now during this global health crisis. They're also experiencing suboptimal nutrition. Their eating patterns are inconsistent. They're making poor nutritional choices, likely due to stress. They are over-consuming foods. Most of our patients have gained the COVID-19, so to speak. And of course, that poor nutrition can elevate the risks of oral inflammation. And finally, our patient population is experiencing this transient concept called mask mouth, where they are dry. They're experiencing xerostomia from mouth breathing, which elevates the increased risk of oral manifestations like decay, gingivitis, periodontitis, advanced deposit, debris, calculus, as well as oral lesions, particularly cold sores, canker sores, angular cheilitis, or various types of candidiasis. And so now is our chance to look at some of the challenges that our patients have experienced and really gather a pulse on the world, particularly on our educated community. Yes, our patients were scared to go to the dentist. Yes, our patients watched on the news, as they were concerned more so about spending money on buying hand sanitizer and bleach. But they also sat and watched on the news and understood new layers of infection control mitigation strategies. Our patients have a renewed value and sense of worth when it comes to personal health and wellness. Maybe before this pandemic, we were competing with a new Louis Vuitton bag or the brand new Tesla or a family trip to Disneyland. But now, our patients are utilizing the resources that they have to protect themselves and to protect the health, wellness, and vitality of their families. Our patients sat and watched on the news as certain populations experienced advanced risk factors associated with SARS-CoV-2. And they understand that a relatively asymptomatic disease or virus can have a subsequent threat on systemic health. So, as we put our lens, so to speak, on the future, it's important for us to take a look at where it is that we move now. Looking at the future and the clinical paradigm shifts that our patients are going to be expecting of us, that we should be expecting of ourselves. And these are things like looking at how we evaluate our patients' unique immunity. How we manage aerosols, how we institute what we understand about aspiration or oral hygiene and respiratory infections, and subsequently the role that inflammation plays in the work that we do. Beginning with looking at immunity. Now, for a long time, we treated all of our patients on kind of a blanketed or templated protocol system. And the challenge with that is that not all of our patients present with the same levels of immunity, immune status, or wound healing opportunities. So now more than ever, we've taken a step back. And yes, we've done either patient phone screenings or electronic screenings. We have reviewed health histories. Now we have an excuse to have that patient update that health history form. So now is our chance to look at patients that may have autoimmune concerns. Maybe those patients are patients that we want to institute additional modalities, like recommending probiotics for them during certain types of procedures. Gathering vital signs like patient temperature can also help us understand if the immune system is in a state of stress or distress. Maybe if our patient has delayed wound healing or if our patient has a diminished immune response, maybe we do want to consider the integration of things like host modulation therapy, local delivery of antibiotics, or putting our patients on antimicrobials prior to dental procedures. We've also, of course, looked at our aerosol mitigation strategies, things like instituting pre-procedural mouth rinses, maybe introducing the laser on a laser bacterial reduction setting, to reduce the viral load and the bacterial load subgingivally before we institute aerosol generating procedures requiring high volume evacuation and personal protective equipment. We understand that oral hygiene status and subsequently respiratory infections move in tandem. We saw this, for example, with patients that have COPD. We found that patients that flossed routinely and had regular dental visits with COPD had fewer days with worse respiratory symptomatic outcomes. We found that the incidence of pneumonia decreased if we were able to institute periodontal therapy on our patients. And so we gathered the conclusion that a patient who is performing good oral hygiene has the opportunity to maintain or prevent airway infections. Rather, that respiratory epithelium absolutely have the ability to aspirate bacteria or pathogens into those epithelium, and those epithelium can then promote the exacerbation of a respiratory infection. Our concern becomes, if our patient has gross debris or biofilm in the mouth and they aspirate, that respiratory infection could result from an aspiration of these oropharyngeal flora. So we look at patients that are at elevated risk for experiencing aspiration of this biofilm. Predisposing conditions like stroke, Parkinson's disease, alcohol abuse, sedative use, as well as, of course, individuals who experience things like malnutrition, tobacco habits, COPD, diabetes, corticosteroid use, or individuals who have experienced intubation. We also know that when a patient is in a state of inflammation, the body releases various types of inflammatory markers. And one of those systemic inflammatory markers that the body releases is this concept of a leukotriene. Leukotrienes are cytokines released by our own body to fight the inflammatory process. And what it does is these leukotrienes actually cause inflammation specifically of the airway. Leukotrienes cause inflammation of the airway, including bronchoconstriction, airway obstruction, and it allows for the release of these inflammatory mediators to infiltrate into the cellular walls of the respiratory tract. What's more, when we look at inflammatory cytokines, remember, these inflammatory cytokines are a big family of different types of chemical mediators that are released when a patient is in a state of inflammation, that these inflammatory cytokines are of great concern to us. Number one, a patient who has periodontitis has increased levels of cytokines, particularly tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 1, and interleukin 6. Most notably, patients that experienced respiratory distress associated with SARS-CoV-2 had high cytokine levels, particularly interleukin 6. And this is not a new concept for us. You see, cytokine storm syndrome was noted in patients that experienced severe COVID-19 cases. And what do we mean by this? Well, as far back as 1918 with the Spanish flu and now with the propagation of COVID-19, what we're finding is that individuals who have chronic inflammation in their body have high levels of cytokines. And these cytokines, or these inflammatory mediators, are like fuel for the virus. So the virus comes in, they see all of these angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors, they lock into a portal, and now they see transient inflammation everywhere. And these mediators are fueling and allowing the propagation of this virus to continue. What's more, we're seeing some incredible similarities back and forth, particularly with regards to the risk factors associated with COVID-19 and periodontal disease. All of these being excellent educational opportunities for our patients. What we're doing is building the case. If our patient is concerned that they are a risk factor for COVID-19 and they're afraid to come into the dentist because of this, this is our opportunity to let them know they likely have an increased risk for experiencing oral inflammation, particularly periodontal disease. Why does that matter? Well, early on during this pandemic, we postulated that there could be a link between oral hygiene status and the severity of SARS-CoV-2. Most notably, that if a patient had gross debris and they were able to aspirate that gross debris, that they could be experiencing advanced signs, stages, or symptoms of SARS-CoV-2 infection. And of course, we saw the research starting to unfold in that way early on. We saw, for example, that if an individual has high levels of interleukin 6, which remember in chronic perio, they do, these high levels of interleukin 6 can accurately predict a patient experiencing respiratory failure. In fact, if a patient has high interleukin 6 levels, which remember our chronic perio patients will have, they have a 22 times elevated risk for experiencing respiratory complications. In addition, a study conducted in Tokyo found that a patient who has poor oral hygiene could experience prolonged viral shedding, meaning although we thought that there was a window of about 2 weeks of viral shedding, that viral shedding could extend if a patient has poor oral hygiene status. And finally, Maruf and their crew in the Journal of Clinical Periodontology published just a few weeks ago that periodontitis has an increased plausibility or link to advanced COVID-19 outcomes. Most notably, that periodontitis increases the risk that a patient will experience ICU admission, need to be placed on ventilation, and your risk of dying from a COVID-19 infection is a 9-fold increase if you have periodontitis, and we believe that's due to the increased blood levels of the biomarkers associated with oral inflammation, and of course linking to to worse disease outcomes. And so the opportunity for us begins now in understanding that society was told to cover their mouth to protect their body, meaning our patients understand that the mouth and the nose are portals of entry for viruses and bacteria. But we've known that for a long time. We've known for a long time that the mouth is the barometer to the rest of the body. We've known for a long time that the mouth can provide a portal for biological plausibility. We understand that currently there are upwards of 57 different types of diseases and conditions that have a biological plausibility to oral inflammation and oral disease. And so I have a provocative idea. Take the word COVID-19 and replace it with any of the other types of systemic diseases and conditions that are either due to, advanced systemic inflammatory burden or bacteremia. And I think we acknowledge right then and there, now more than ever, that our opportunity now begins by putting our sights on the future and understanding that we did have some barriers. We did have some things that got in the way, hurdles that made it very difficult for us to maybe institute treatment modalities early on. And I think one of the biggest issues that we had is that for a long time, we saw patients in a perceived state of health. Before this pandemic happened, patients would sit down for their routine hygiene visit. They didn't care what infection control strategies we were instituting. Our patients weren't concerned about pre-procedural mouth rinses. Our patients were inconvenienced in having to fill out a health history form again. Our patients were annoyed if we wanted to gather additional vital signs. Our patients thought it was completely normal to bleed from the mouth, or if they were bleeding, it's because you stabbed me with that tiny little sword. Our patients were in a perceived state of health where they presented for their free cleaning that their insurance covered, and they wanted their x-rays only if insurance covered it. And the idea is that while we do still see patients in a perceived state of health, we need to remember that our patients now more than ever are educated. And now we get to utilize communication strategies to help support our patients in health, wellness, and vitality. And so the conclusion of this program is going to look at some of the core strategies that we can institute to help educate our patient, to help identify some of the ways to reduce broken appointments early on, reduce some of the ways that patients are trying to avoid obtaining, accepting, seeking, and subsequently receiving the dental care that they need. And so these are core strategies, for example, like how can we provide patient educational opportunities as a dental professional? How can we train or calibrate our team members, particularly our administrative team members up front, to manage a lot of these steps? And then when do we escalate some of the steps that need to be instituted to a clinician? Finally, we're going to look at some of the ways to reinforce our patients' commitment to their overall health. And in order to do that, we need to begin by looking at where our patients are receiving their information about COVID-19. Now, this from a top-down approach shows us at the very top, patients are receiving, for the most part, the majority of their information about COVID-19 from the television and the internet, followed by social media and the grocery store. There we are, healthcare provider, just above the newspaper and the radio. So, my question to you, Dentistry, is can we look at some of the opportunities that we have to reach our patients and educate them? And can we institute those modalities to move healthcare provider to the top of sources of information with regards to COVID-19? This is things like, look at your office website. Does your office website include information about the mitigation strategies that you're instituting? Does it have photos of your providers wearing the PPE? Does it show information that we just walked through in this program about the risks of oral biofilm aspiration, oral inflammation, and subsequent SARS-CoV-2 infection? What about your social media outlets? Do your accounts show the patients that the things that you're doing in the dental office are protecting them, and in fact, that the patient is better off having their dental work done and treating their inflammation versus delaying treatment? Perhaps consider sending a patient newsletter or One thing that I've started to institute as a clinician myself is a pre-appointment video, a recording of me that I send via my practice software to the patient, introducing myself, telling the patient that I'm really excited to see them tomorrow for their dental appointment, and re-advising the patient why I love that they have a dedicated commitment to their oral health status. Saying things like, did you know that the American Dental Association has looked at this information and they know how important it is for you as a patient to get this dental care done to protect yourself from potential advanced signs, stages, or symptoms of SARS-CoV-2. I want to show you one way that we've instituted this, and this is a strategy that we integrated. I'm narrating over the top of this, but you'll see this is something that we instituted in our practice with AZ Perio. These are little videos recorded by me and Dr. Holly McKnight, one of the diplomats at our practice in our periodontal office, letting the patient know, is it safe to go to the dentist? Let's talk about some of the things that we learned. And so there are several different ways that you as a dental practice can utilize your outlets to really make sure that you're reaching your patients and educating them in the right way. Another important piece to all of this is to make sure that our administrative team members are trained. So yes, as dental hygienists, as doctors, maybe as dental assistants, we understand the infection control steps or the aerosol mitigation strategies that we're instituting, but what if a patient wants to learn about those things on a discovery call when they call the front desk? Or what if a patient is trying to break their appointment and now an administrative team member has to manage that? Well, there are a few ways that you in a dental practice can help mitigate this. First, consider generating a step-by-step conversation, a mapping or a roadwork or a framework, so to speak, for the administrative team members to help educate patients on infection control standards. And maybe even educating the patient on some of the things that we know about oral and systemic diseases. Remember, dental patients for the most part don't enjoy coming into the dentist. I know, I'm just as shocked as you are because I think I'm delightful to hang out with, but even before this pandemic, patients were more scared of more scared of dentistry than they were of heights, spiders, or snakes. In fact, in many cases, they were more scared of dentistry than they were of public speaking or even death. And so now they're walking into a situation where we look different, things feel different. So if our administrative team members can educate our patients up front on these things and let our patients know what to expect, it'll be helpful. Even using verbiage, things like, for your protection and for the protection of others, we will be taking a temperature on every patient. In addition, you could also educate patients on some of the things that we are doing, like completing screening forms or taking temperatures on team members to make sure that no team member is bringing in COVID. One other thing that I absolutely love, and I actually borrowed from the coffee shop up the street from my house, early on during this pandemic, they had a sign on their door of the coffee shop that said, these are things that we have always and will continue to do to protect you against any type of foodborne or airborne infections. And they had things on there like, we have always and will continue to wipe down all of the tables, wipe down menus, make sure that we use, high temperature sanitization water when we're cleaning our dishes, making sure that none of our staff members come in sick to work. And I love that concept. We have always and will continue to. Patients need to know that there are a lot of strategies that we have always and will continue to institute, like a lot of our infection control pieces. However, if a patient needs to be managed beyond that of an administrative team member, it's important for us to know when it is that we should be escalating that patient to a clinician. Meaning, if a patient wants to cancel their dental visit or their dental hygiene visit because they're afraid of their risk factors or they're afraid of contracting COVID, and our administrative team members have maybe managed a lot of that, but yet the patient is still concerned or the patient is canceled. First and foremost, I think our clinicians need to be involved in the at-risk patients. So when a patient answers yes on a screening form, I think it's the autonomy of the clinician to decide, is that a patient that I feel safe in treating? But if we do have a patient who's medically compromised, has delayed wound healing or diminished immunity, Or maybe a patient that has advanced infection control inquiries or questions. Maybe then is a great opportunity for our front office team members to say, you know what, let me go ahead and have your hygienist give you a call, or let me have the doctor give you a call to provide some additional information and answer your questions to the best of their ability. Finally, and this is my favorite part, reinforcing the patient commitment to their overall health. This, my friends, is an all-team approach. Meaning, now more than ever, when a patient comes in and they're showing a dedication to their oral hygiene status, they're coming in for their hygiene visits, they're coming in for their routine examinations, they're coming in for dental procedures, that we need to take the opportunity to let our patients know, I'm really proud of you for committing to your overall health. Thank you for being here today. Let me explain to you why it's so important that you continue to maintain your dental health, because that is going to build value for our patients and why they need to come back for routine visits. And it's going to help to build value in the event that our patients need advanced treatment in the long run. One way that we do that is by having post-appointment videos, particularly for patients who have been diagnosed or treatment planned for advanced treatment or complex treatment plans. So we'll say things like, "Hi Susan, this is Katrina, your dental hygienist with AZ Perio. It was so good to see you today. I know that we had a very comprehensive treatment plan that we built out for you. First, I want to thank you for your commitment to your overall health. But I wanted to take a moment to review with you over this video a little bit of information about the osseous procedure that we talked to you about early today. You can show this video to any decision maker in your household, or please feel free to shoot a text back to this number if you have any questions. But let me walk you through what we know about osseous procedures and why it's important for you to receive this procedure to protect yourself against advanced periodontal conditions. Because you see, at the end of the day, the work that we do now more than ever needs to be personalized to the patient. Patients need to feel like the work that we're doing is curated for them. And that, yes, we are looking at average standards, protocols, and pieces of information as we know it from entities like the CDC, OSHA, OSAP. But that at the end of the day, the evolution, the changes that we're seeing within the dental practice are instituted to best support our individualized patients in their dental experience. So we're seeing the evolution of things like phone screening, gathering medical history updates, acquiring advanced vital signs. We're seeing the evolution of infection control standards, personal hygiene for our patients and for staff members, as well as educating our patients on the importance of the control of disease and a focus on prevention. We know now more than ever that dentistry looks and feels different for our patients. And I think for a long time, we had challenges with wanting to institute a lot of these changes. We had patients on the hamster wheel coming in every 3, 4, or 6 months in hygiene visits and wanting to move them into advanced periodontal therapy, but nervous on how to create that change. Wanting to institute a greater frequency of assessments for our patients, or educating our patient that we're done actively monitoring this decay or actively monitoring this crown that needs to be done, or this fractured tooth structure, this failed alloy. The question for us now more than ever is, when we take a look at the work that we need to be doing, we acknowledge that we need to be able to jump into the unknown. We need to be able to move forward and institute these changes, knowing that sometimes we can't see what's before us. We all returned to work, so to speak, without knowing what we were returning to. And I think the fear for many of us is that when we decided to leap into the unknown, well, we simply didn't know what we were leaping into. However, dentistry has never been stronger and more resilient than it is today. As we rise to meet the road, as we move forward in 2021 and beyond, now more than ever, we have the opportunity to look with 2020 vision in the windshield ahead of us, not in the rearview mirror behind. Not in the side mirrors where objects can appear more amplified and more concerning than they truly are, but looking forward, knowing full well where we came from, where we are, and preparing for where we have to go. I want to conclude with this wonderful quote from the Dr. Maya Angelou, who reminds us, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Dentistry, for a long time, we've been doing our best, but now we know better. So let's together do better. I want to thank you endlessly for your time today. I want to acknowledge Dr. Glenn Vo and his entire crew with the Nifty Thrifty Virtual Summit. It has been an esteemed honor, pleasure to be a part of this. Thank you for your time today. My name is Katrina Sanders, the dental wine hygienist. It has been an absolute honor to be here today. Dentistry, thank you for all the things that you're doing to elevate your learning and to continue to prepare yourself to meet the needs of our society. Thank you for wearing your cape and rising up as an essential worker, as a true frontline worker supporting the community and society in health, wellness, and vitality. And so to that I say, be safe and be well. Cheers.
United Medical Credit offers dentists an easy, effective, and affordable alternative to traditional financing options. Its unique multi-lender network can help even the most credit-challenged patients get access to the financing they need to pay for high-cost dental procedures. United Medical Credit offers up to 40% more approvals than traditional lenders, loan amounts for up to $25,000, fast funding prior to procedure date, dedicated customer support, less paperwork for you, free patient referrals, and no sign-up monthly or annual fees. Check out their Virtual Summit special. Sign up through the following link to claim our special 6.99% promotional financing offer, a discount of 30% off the standard rate. This is only available right now for our Virtual Summit viewers. To take advantage of this amazing offer, go to www.unitedmedicalcredit.com/nifty-thrifty. United Medical Credit, making patient care more affordable.
Our next speaker is Dr. Bruce Baird.
Dr. Bruce Baird is a well-respected cosmetic and family dentist based in Dallas-Fort Worth. He is the founder and chairman of the board for Comprehensive Finance, a financial services company that offers payment solutions for dentists and other healthcare providers. With nearly 40 years of experience leading a successful dental practice, Granbury Dental Care, Dr. Baird is an expert voice in dentistry and private practice ownership. Recognizing his ability to help other dentists achieve the same success he experienced in his practice, Dr. Baird partnered with Vicki McManus to create the Productive Dentist Academy. PDA has been an invaluable resource to dentists nationwide. Also regarded as an international authority on implant dentistry, Dr. Baird is frequently asked to share his expertise at cosmetic dentistry conferences all over the world. We are so excited to bring Dr. Baird's message to you today. His presentation is How to Increase Case Acceptance and Profitability.
You know, in the dental practice, we have a lot of different things that we look at. And I mean, we have new patients walk in the door. It's how are they greeted at the front desk? You know, what's the overall appearance of the office? All of those things are extremely important. How you answer the telephone, how you do the exam. You know, all of these things are important. But where the rubber meets the road is when you get down to the financial discussion, because that's really where people say yes or no to your treatment. And the financial discussion, in order to have that, I think it's good to have at least an understanding of what's going on in America today, because things have really changed over the last 20 years. The average household income in the U.S. is $53,482. And, you know, that is what the average is. Now, there are some areas or pockets of the country that average income is higher. There's some areas that it's certainly lower. So this is the average. Americans are denied credit basically due to their credit scores. And after 2008, credit scores really changed, and there was a lot of differences, and people who ordinarily could have afforded dentistry all of a sudden couldn't afford it anymore. And we began to understand that. And also the new millennials. A lot of millennials don't even have credit. So you look at people that come in, they want to be able to make monthly payments or they want to have convenient monthly payments, but what we find out is they don't have that opportunity in the practice. You know, the trick to this is you need to understand the difference between cost and affordability. They're different things. You need to learn to make the dentistry you're offering affordable. And that's a different thought process. You know, so let's look at what's happening in dentistry today. We know America, where they're at, but let's talk about what's happening in dentistry. You know, you have the young dentists that are coming out of school that are high in debt. You know, sometimes they're at, you know, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 worth of debt. Also, the average dentist in the country, I read it in Dental Economics recently, was 23% of their time is open, meaning they have open scheduled time. Well, I personally believe that that's closer to 50% of their time, because the truth is the average dentist is only producing $405 an hour, $3,200 a day, and, you know, 3 crowns and a few fillings, you've done what the average dentist does in an entire day. So it's about affordability. For every 10 crowns that are diagnosed, how many are actually done at one time? What we know is 9 out of 10, and I've heard even higher than that, 95 out of 100 crowns are done one at a time. And why is that? Why do people only have 1 crown done at a time? Well, it's pretty easy when you start thinking about it. It's, you know, the average cost of a crown, let's just say that's $1,200. Out of pocket from an insurance company, you know, it can be significant. One crown is done because this is what happens. The dentist will diagnose 5 crowns. I said, hey, Bob, you need to have 5 crowns done. And the patient says, okay, great. What will my insurance cover? Your team, which is well-trained and they're compassionate people, and they go, well, yes, your insurance is going to cover $1,500. Your portion is going to be $3,500. And then what's the next thing you hear from the patient? Oh, can we just do one? Have you guys ever heard that before? Can we just do one? Well, yeah. And your team member, because they don't like conflict, they say, oh yeah, we can do it. We can do one. As a matter of fact, let's make this even better. Let's use your insurance this year to do 1 crown. Let's do insurance next year. We'll do another crown. And let's do that over the next 5 years. That's what happens every day in dentistry, and it's absolute crap. I mean, you're not taking care of your patients if you're doing that. That's the truth, because what happens is 3 years from now, that tooth that needed a crown now is actually needing a root canal. It's actually going to be extracted and need to have an implant. We're not doing any favors, but why do we do it? We do it because we've been trained to do it. When patients are constantly saying, well, I can't do 5 crowns, but I just want to do 1, it even happens that the dentists begin to only diagnose 1 crown because they know that's all they're going to be able to, patient's going to be able to do. That's not doing comprehensive dentistry. That's not taking care of patients. If you needed to have 5 crowns done, how many appointments are you going to want it done in? You're going to want it done in 10 visits, or are you going to want it in 1 visit or 2? I guarantee you, I've given this presentation to enough dentists around the country, I can tell you, you're going to do it in 1 or 2 visits. Why don't we do it? Well, we don't because insurance, patients think that insurance should cover everything. Well, that's not the case. So, that's what we look at. The reason they're not doing it is for one simple reason. They can't afford what you're offering. They just can't do it. They only have $4,000 in savings. They can't come up with $3,500. In fact, most people in America, if they had to come up with $400 out of pocket right this minute, they would have a tough time doing that. So we need to understand that. Our old financial options there really are old financial options. Decade after decade, they offer the same, dentistry has offered the same things. It's an old way of thinking. We're still being taught to offer the options that, from consultant standpoint, they're really, there's no different. In my 40 years in dentistry, there's been no real changes. Yes, we accept Visa and MasterCard now. Okay, that's great for those that have Visa and MasterCard. But most of us, have been influenced by the traditional third-party financing companies. You know, their options are not really in the best interest of the doctor. You're taking a 10% discount on your full fee, but you're getting cash up front. And people say, well, that's a great deal. But with the average overhead being 73% in a dental practice, and all of a sudden you're taking 10% off the top, you're not just taking 10% off the top, you're taking 35% of your profit in your business. So why would you do that? The other thing is, most of those patients, when do banks loan you money? When you don't need it. I mean that's, you're going to be approved very easily. And so what we do is, everybody in dentistry is working for that same 40%. Those are the people who can afford to do dentistry, and they're ones who maybe have cash in the bank, they're the ones who have savings, and they're the ones who are approved by third party. But what are you doing for the other 60%? My bet is not very much. As a matter of fact, what are your options? Half now and half later? You know, yeah, I mean, that could be one of the options, but you have to be really careful when you follow the masses, because the M could be silent. You know, and that's something that when I look at that, I mean, just because a large company tells you that you should offer interest-free financing for 12 months to patients and teach your team how to do it, why do you do it? Because you need the cash up front? Well, I'll show you ways to get significant amounts of cash up front and to be able to take care of your patients and make it affordable. You know, the most successful dentists adopt innovative dental and payment technology. It's disruptive. You know, the old way of doing things, we know. You know, less than half the patients qualify. You know, you have to take a big 10% discount on your fee. And you're paid up front, so that's a great deal. But the new way of doing things, using a company like Compassionate Finance, is a large majority of the patients are approved. If they've got a good checking history, they're more than likely going to be approved, even with maybe subprime credit. That's okay. You know, personalization of, you know, of the terms for almost any budget, we've got the opportunity to be able to help just about anybody. And the patient can prepay if they want. They can, you know, pay it off early. There's no penalties. And this really is the way that payments are starting to go. So how do I help more patients move forward with 5 crowns that they need? You know, we talked about it a minute ago. You know, dentist diagnoses 5 crowns. Patient says, well, my insurance cover it. Team member says, well, they're going to cover a portion of it, and your portion is going to be $3,500. And then the patient says the same thing. Well, can I just do 1? How you respond to that is what makes the difference between you being a very productive dentist and being able to help people in the right way, or not being able to do that. And here's how you do it. I mean, the team member says, well, Bob, you could do that, but why don't we do this? Why don't we use your insurance as a down payment? You know, and then we can work out the rest. We can do all 5 of these crowns at one time. Dr. Baird could give you a little pill, and you can snooze the whole time. You know what? I've been doing this for 8 years now. I have never had a patient turn that option down. Instead, what dentists are saying, oh, let's do it 1 a year. Is that efficient? Is that really working for you? Is it really what's in the best interest of the patient? And more importantly, is that what you would do if it came to you? It comes down to it wasn't affordable, but now it is affordable. And Bob, we can do it as payments as low as $80 a month, or $100 a month, or $200 a month, or whatever the patient chooses. And people will say, well, I don't, you know, I have to wait on my money. What if they don't pay me? The truth is, interest offsets risk. You know, patients, what you don't want to have a patient say is when your team member goes in and says, okay, Bob, your total treatment's going to be $5,000 for these crowns. You don't want them to say, how much? You don't want that. You know, they're always going to say, what will my insurance cover? But that's the worst statement your team can hear is, how much? You know, from that, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to be that much. I found out a long time ago that people say that no matter what. I mean, they just don't know how much it was supposed to be, just like me with my pool guy that told me that the heater element was going to be $400. And I was like, how much? I couldn't believe it. It's not about price sensitivity. It's about anything being too much. And so when you hear that, you've got to be able to help those patients make that determination of what's best. what I like to do is I like to give a ballpark fee. So, and I do comprehensive exams on every patient. So my comprehensive exam, I may find that they need $10,000 or $12,000 worth of dentistry. You know, that's not a lot of dentistry nowadays, with a crown being $1,200, $1,500, plus buildups, plus maybe periodontal therapy, plus this stuff. It's not unusual to get $10,000 or $12,000 worth of dentistry. So what I try to do is I give the patient a ballpark fee. I said, Bob, I know you already knew this, but you probably have $12,000 to $15,000 worth of dentistry, or $10,000 to $12,000 worth of dentistry. Why do I do that? Because I want to get a response from the patient. I want to know where they're at. You know, and it's, I'm only going to hear one of three things. I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to listen. One, they're going to say, yeah, I knew it was a lot, doc. You know, I knew it was a lot of dentistry. I knew it was a bunch. What does that mean to you? That means let's go to work. They knew it was going to be a lot. They're ready for it. I've had people say, well, man, I thought it was going to be a lot more than that. And that's when I say, well, that was just for your upper. Your bottom's going to be double that. But I don't really do that. But that's the thought process. I want to know that that patient knows that that dentistry is going to be it's going to be expensive, and they were planning on it. I see that a lot more now because they do a lot of research online. They may have been to 2 or 3 dentists. The second thing they can say would be, yeah, I knew it was going to be a lot, but I didn't know it was going to be that much. Why is that important? Because they didn't know it was going to be that much. And I'll say, Bob, well, how much do you think it was going to be? They'll say, well, I thought it might be 6,000 or 7,000, but I sure didn't know it was going to be 10 or 12. I said, no worries. We can use your 6,000 as a down payment, and we can work out some convenient monthly payments for the rest. Patients love that because they go, oh, okay, great. Now I can move forward with treatment. But then you're going to have that third patient who goes, oh my gosh, there is no way, doc. That's impossible. I mean, I got 3 kids in college. I just, you know, my husband lost his job, you know, whatever it is, I want to hear it now before I leave the room. Because if I leave the room, the chances of my team coming and finding me, getting a new treatment plan option for this patient is 0. I mean, I'm already working with somebody else. I'm doing surgery in another room. I'm prepping other teeth. That patient's waiting. They're getting frustrated. And they end up leaving and never have the work done. I don't care if I'm doing crowns or if I'm doing buildups for a patient. I'm going to do whatever's in the best interest of that patient. If they can't afford it, what I try to do is I try to put myself in their position. And that's what I tell folks. I could have 10 of my dentist buddies come in here. We could give you 12 opinions. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to tell you what I would do if it was me and if I was in your situation. And sometimes that means I'm going to have to get them on carie-free rinses. I'm going to have to get them on these other options. We're going to have to get your gums healthy. Let's take out the teeth that are infected. It may be a step or a process, but at least I'm taking care of that patient. And I love that. I love that ability to be able to do that. So, you know, those are the things. They're only thinking how much money I have in my pocket. But the truth is, maybe they have insurance. That's $1,500 as a down payment. Insurance companies are laughing their butt off because most of the time, patients are only doing 1 crown. They have $1,500 worth of insurance. Patients having to come out of pocket $500, and insurance is keeping the rest. So they think we're the stupidest business people on the planet. So I want to utilize their insurance, but I don't want that to determine the treatment that I'm doing for that patient over the next 5 years. I want to do the work today for them if we can find out a way to make it affordable. And I would much rather do that. So what are your options? You know, when you start looking at things, we did a survey. Prices are dropping in dentistry. 83% of dentists surveyed in the last year think their fees may need to drop in the next 3 to 5 years. That's crazy. You know, I mean, I've seen $500 crowns. I was traveling in LA, and I saw a billboard that said implants for free. I mean, how low are you going to go? I mean, do you want to be a high-value fee-for-service practice, or even, you know, have that high level of what I call high-tech, high-touch? Or are you just going to sign up for every plan and do that? You can be successful either way. I'm not discouraging either way. I just know that if you look at the commoditization of dentistry has become a commodity when it comes to bleaching. You know, bleaching is done on cruise ships. You can order bleaching online. You can do bleaching everywhere. Other things like crowns are starting to become a commodity. But who is the one who's causing the commoditization of dentistry? Who is it? Is it what I call the cheapo depot down here that's doing dentures for $350? No, they're not the ones who are causing the commoditization. Who's causing the commoditization of dentistry is us, because we don't have financial options for patients that's affordable. We just don't have them. I'd love to say we do, but we don't. Half now, half when we see, all of that crap. It's just, those are the same options that we've had forever. Cash discount, 7% or 3%, whatever it is. Third-party financing, of which 85% of third-party financing is 1 year interest-free. That's not financing. That's not convenient monthly payments. That's taking people who have money and offering them interest-free financing. They get approved, yeah, and you take a 10% hit, a 30% hit on your profit. Makes no sense. They have people all over the country. Most of the consultants that are out there, they've pretty much been bought and paid for by those third-party financing companies. Why? Because they pay them $5,000 to talk about it. They pay them flights to come to the ADA. They do have big giant parties. It's a big game. A lot of the speakers out there, that's their source of revenue. But we're following their advice. But is it the right advice to follow? What if they can't do those options? What if they don't get approved for these? Well, then it's half now and half at seat. Or it's a third, a third, a third. Or even better, the one that's just the biggest joke is you start paying me, and when you get 50% of it paid, then we'll start your work. How do I know these things? Because I used to do them all. Because the consultants told me that's what we should do. It's a bunch of crap. I'm just telling you straight up. It's just not the way it is. So how do you do more restorations? How do you do more dentistry? It's not about just restorations. How do you do more dentistry? There's only one thing standing in your way, and that's affordability. It's affordable monthly payments for your patients. And again, we're all competing for that 40%. Those are the ones who third-party financing will approve and will give you the money. But what are you doing for the 60%? What are you doing for them? I've had ADA trustee came to me at a meeting one time, and he said, well, how are you guys like the third-party financing as far as compassionate finance? I said, well, what do you do when they say no? He said, I tell people to get out of here, because I'm not going to give them credit if they won't give them credit. Well, that's a thought process, and that's really what a lot of people think about. But what I will tell you is we're in a different situation than a bank. A bank's putting up $9,000 of cash for $10,000 worth of treatment. They got to get paid back. It's absolutely critical. They get paid back. Now you flip that around, what are we putting up? Am I putting up $9,000 to do $10,000 worth of treatment? No. I'm putting up my time. As long as my hard costs are covered, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500. And am I okay to finance the rest? Yes, interest offsets risk. The same thing that banks already know. So I need you to think differently, because the truth is, after over $350 million in notes, that's a third of $1 billion, and working with over 50,000 patients, we know that compassionate finance works. We know that patients love it. We know that 95% of the people in America actually make monthly payments on everything. They're used to it, and they make them on time. Yes, every once in a while you have somebody who doesn't make their payment. Okay. Compassionate Finance does the work for you. They do the phone calls, they make sure. Do you know that 98% of the patients who don't make a payment are actually current after 3 weeks? We get them current. So it's a very different way of thinking. It's 180 degrees different than what you've ever been taught. But what's important for you to understand is if you're not doing it, the person down the street will be doing it. If you're trying to become the high value practice, yeah, you're going to have a difficult time, because you're either going to just serve people who have all the cash that they need, or you're going to serve the masses. And I'd like to help people, and I enjoy helping people. And really, people make those monthly payments, and I love that. So I have people that say, well, why would I do a loan? Why would I do that? Because there's only 3 reasons that we've never done it ourselves, our own in-house financing. And back in 2008, I'm thinking about this, and I go, well, there's only 3 reasons. Number 1 is we've been told not to do it. By who? The banks. Number 2 is we don't know what the rules are. We don't know how to do it. And the third, which is the big one, is what if they don't pay me? What if they don't pay me? And to me, what we know is that the interest, as you look at a note, the longer they go, the more interest they pay. People know that. If I want a 7-year note on my car, if I want a 30-year mortgage, I'm going to pay more interest. The American, consumer is used to doing that. I bought the TV, I can afford it, but I'm going to have to go 48 months. Yes, there's interest associated. And the biggest joke is, oh, there's 0% interest. I'm buying a car. Well, they just jack the price up of the car by $3 or $4 grand, and that covers your interest. That's not what happens. But if you look at a loan calculator and the loan amount says $2,400 and you look at it for 1 year payments, that's 12 monthly payments at let's just call it an average of 13.9% interest, their monthly payment is going to be $215 a month. So that's on $2,400 loan amount. The interest rate grows. You start doing, you do 2 years. Now the payment drops to $115 a month, but your portion of interest grows. Now you go to $81. It's on 3 years. Your percent interest grows. $65 a month, all the way to $55 a month on $2,400 finance. Literally 1 out of 4 people could totally not make payments. And you're going to make more money than you would have just by doing those other 3. So I want you to think differently. So again, the average office does 1 crown. Say you charge $1,000. The doctor's time's an hour. Insurance pays $500. The patient pays $500. It leaves $1,000 in the insurance company's pocket. They are laughing their butt off. They know we're stupid, But what about a compassionate office? Let's say we do 5 or 6 crowns. It's $6,000. Doctor's time, 3 hours. I don't know what you're doing for 3 hours if it takes you that long to do 6 crowns. But you know what? Say it takes you 3 hours to do that. What you're going to find is insurance is paying $1,500. Your patient's financing $4,500 at 13.9% interest. On 24 months, they can make a $216 a month payment. A lot of people can afford that. Some can't. They'll go 36. It's $154 a month. Well, some can't. It's 48 months. It's $123 a month. And some can't. They need to go 60 months. But guess what happens at $104 a month, which many, many people could afford? They're spending that much on cigarettes. They're spending that much on wine. They're spending that much going out to dinner. But now you're doing 6 crowns on this patient. But guess how much you're getting paid back? On $4,500, remember you got $1,500 down to cover all your hard costs. But now you're receiving $6,240 over 60 months on $4,500 finance. You're making an additional, almost $2,000. You've got to think differently nowadays. Making it affordable for patients, it's not just about us and our businesses. Yes, it's important. We want to be profitable. We want to be successful. But it's also about finding successful ways to help patients get the work done that they need to have done. So let's look at a compassionate finance office. They do longer and larger procedures. No question about it. There's much less stress. When you give a patient a pill and say, I'm going to do 6 crowns instead of 1, that's awesome. My favorite patient is one that's asleep, but I love talking to my patients afterwards and before. We have an increase in our profits. It's what patients want, more work, fewer appointments. It's actually what you want if you were having the work done, but yet we don't do it. Most any patient can afford the treatment. Don't dream your life, live your dreams. You get the opportunity to help patients live their dreams, and you get to live your dreams. So it really is something that's amazing. So when we talk about compassionate finance, who is compassionate finance? Compassionate finance, the slogan for compassionate finance is we're in it for good. Compassionate finance started 8 years ago. Basically, the thought process came about 10 years ago. And I really wanted to be able to help patients be able to afford their dentistry. And remember when I talked about the 3 reasons why we never did our own financing? Well, because we were told not to. Well, I was wrong. The second thing, we didn't know what the rules are. Well, compassionate finance, we know what the rules are now. We know what the rules are in all 50 states. People say, well, I could do that on my own. I think I could do it on my own. Well, let me tell you, the rules and the regulations change yearly, state by state. I had a dentist come to me one time and he says, oh man, I love this stuff. I love it. You know, I've been doing financing on my patients for the last 20 years. I have over $2 million in financing with my patients. I go, really? He goes, yeah. I go, that's amazing. I go, where do you practice? He goes, he was in Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I was like, man. I said, how much do you charge? What kind of interest rate do you charge? He goes, 18% to everybody. And he's got $2 million of people paying him 18%. But I said, oh, well, I just want you to know that you really can't charge 18% in Michigan. It's actually less than that. And you know, I guess if somebody found out with social media today and said, you're charging above usury, you could have a class action lawsuit on your hands. Well, he went, oh my gosh, well, can you all take over these for us? And so therein lies the story. If you're keeping track with it, yeah, you could do it, but why would you want to make the collection calls? Why would you want to do this when with Compassionate Finance does it all for you? And the third reason was, what if they don't pay me? And again, understanding interest, understanding how long-term interest. I've had people say, well, I don't ever want to work with, you have A patients, B patients, C, D, and E. The A's are the third-party financing type patients, and the B's. But who's taking care of the C's, D's, and E's? Well, the interest rates may go 9, 9, 11, 9, 13, 9, 15, 9, 17, 9. Somebody who doesn't have good credit or doesn't have a good checking history, they need to be paying 17, 9. They've earned it. Just like the patient who's done really good with their finances, they've earned a 9% interest rate. And you get to choose what your interest rates are, but we give you what we call our best practices. And so that's what's important for you to understand. Well, I've had people say, well, I don't ever want to go more than 24 months. Well, I think I just showed you what happens if you go farther. You make more money. You make more money on interest. But what you're doing is, I'm not doing it because I make more money. I'm doing it because it's what they need for affordability. Does that make sense? I mean, that's what I want you to think about. I want to make this affordable for my patients. I'm going to do more dentistry than I've ever even dreamed about. And what's really cool is I'm helping more patients than I've ever even dreamed about. So I've had people say, well, I don't ever want to do the E's. Well, what if you had 80% of the E's? Even if there were 20% that defaulted, but you had 80% of those people paying full term on their notes at 17.9% interest. Figure that out. You're actually going to make more than your usual and customary fee. So I'm helping people get the dentistry done, and we have doctors that are making 114% of their usual and customary fee, as opposed to taking a 10% discount from third-party financing. Now, that's a 24% swing in interest. Do you think that helps you become a smarter businessman? It does, and you're helping more people. So I really, again, I want you to think differently. But Compassionate Finance, we're in it for good. We're able to help patients that, you know, we wouldn't have been able to help. They couldn't afford it, but they had $1,000, but they couldn't afford a $6,000 denture. You know, they couldn't afford $10,000 with a couple of implants plus a $5,000 or $6,000 denture. But when they had $1,000 or $2,000 down, my cost to do those is maybe $1,000. Now I'm able to help this person, and they're making monthly payments to me for 36 months. I can promise you it's better for the patient. They feel better because they know they're having the dentistry done at the best place they can have it done, as opposed to going down where they're going to pay $300 for an upper and a lower. They just know it. It's different, and that's what people want. You know, to be able to help people get crown and bridge, and I call it same-day smiles. You know, we can do $12,000 worth of dentistry. They have $3,000 or $4,000 down. I mean, I use CAD/CAM. I got $30 blocks. I mean, I do 10 units of crown and bridge. It cost me $300. Yes, the machine cost $110,000, but that machine is paid for a long time ago. Just being able to help these folks, it's paid for. They financed $9,600, and bingo, here we go. You know, they're paying $300 a month, $400 a month, whatever they can afford. But I'm getting to do all this dentistry, and it's big time difference. You know, what you can expect from Compassionate Finance is this: you can help more patients by making care budget friendly for everyone, perform more comprehensive dentistry in single appointments, generate more revenue, monthly payments with interest. I mean, most dentists have never taken off more than 1 week. Why? Because you have overhead, you have team members, you have electricity, you have all this. You know, one of the cool things is when you got $8,000 a month coming in, $14,000 a month. We've got some offices that have $40,000 a month coming in every month. They can go take 2 weeks off, no problem, 3 weeks off, because they have this monthly revenue that they can count on. It's what I call mailbox money. I already got paid my hard costs, and I took my time and I gave a value to that time. So that's a big deal. Industry-leading cloud lending technology for evaluating risk and loan performance, best-in-class training and customer support. They'll teach you how to do this, compassionate finance. The experts, they'll manage every aspect of your loan contracts. I don't want you to take these loans and then have you try to collect them. Why would we do that? We have people that their job is to do collections. If you lose Mary at the front desk who does your collections, now you got to train somebody, teach them how to do it, and believe me, you're going to fall behind. We take care of all of that for you, and that's what I love about it. And when we started the company, that's what I wanted from my office. I wanted something that would be a third party doing it for us. There's a simple application process. They complete an online application. They'll get a response back in 5 seconds, and it'll say approved, or it'll say, it may say credit is not good, but it may say checking is approved. Meaning, we don't just look at their credit score, we also look at their checking history. Because there have been people that, again, millennials they may not have a credit. You also have people who got dinged during 08. And I know that's been 10 years ago or 11 years ago, but it still has affected folks. They went through a divorce for whatever reason. But now we look at a checking history that's 5, 6 years. They don't jump from checking account to checking account. And so now, can we help those folks? Well, sure. We see that they make monthly payments. So we're going to give you probably a 90%, 93% go rate. That means go for it. This is a good loan. You ought to do it. Now, what about the 7%? We call it, a manual override. Why would you ever manually override our software? Why would you ever say, I want to approve this person anyway? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, you might want to do a charity case. It doesn't matter. I'm going to charge, I've done cases that are $25,000 cases. I told the patient I'm going to charge you $2,000. And I'm going to get you approved, and you're only going to pay me $100 a month or $60 a month. People feel wonderful when they feel like they're making payments and they're a part of it. And I've got a bunch of people that I've done that for. There are other people who, let's say a guy comes in, if you do implants, they want 4 implants done. They need 4 implants. And they're fairly straightforward. It's going to take you an hour to do it. Your total treatment fee is going to be, just for the implant placement, is going to be $8,000. And the patient says, Doc, man, I don't know. All I got's $5,000 in cash. Are you going to finance them? Even if it was bad on their, I'm going to. It's going to take me 1 hour. I'm going to get $5,000 for something that cost me $800. I'm a businessman. Yes, I'm going to do it, and I'll take my chances on the other $3,000. That's just common sense. So you can override it. You could approve 100%. We have people right now across the country that if you can fog a mirror, you get approved. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that, but what I will tell you is we have all different scenarios of how to do that. Then what happens, step 3, is the patient actually can pick what monthly payment they want. Do I care what it is? I don't care. They may say I can do $230. They pick that. My question to them is, especially if you watch them, and my team has been trained to watch them, they say, well, I think I could do $300. I don't want you to think about anything. Why don't we just do $200? The patient says, oh, okay, well, let's do $200. What that means is the payments are going to be longer. You can prepay it anytime you want to. For you, your risk for going longer, you make more money on interest. For them, it becomes easier for them to make the payment. I don't want them to default. And what happens if somebody defaults? Well, does it happen? Yes, it happens. What do? I send out a letter to them. I go, Bob, I know you've had some difficult times. I noticed that, you guys have had some issues. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm writing this off. I'm still your dentist. I'm still going to take care of your family. I'm still going to take care of you guys, but I'm taking this off your plate because we've worked it for 6 months. We've tried to collect it, and they just didn't have the money. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe something happened that we don't know about. Is it going to do me any good to turn them over to a collection agency? No. The old adage, you can't get blood out of a turnip. Why am I going to screw up their credit? It's already screwed up. It does me no good. I've turned 6 people over like that, not turned them over, but sent letters. I actually had 4 of them bring money in when they had it to pay me. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. I'm making interest off the other people that are making their payments. And every once in a while you have somebody that doesn't. Is it the end of the world? No. I've had people quit compassionate finance and say, oh, it didn't work for me. We had way too many cancellations. I go, oh, really? Well, let's take a look. We go to their dashboard and guess what? They're collecting 106% of their usual and customary fee. They're collecting 110%. They go, yeah, I didn't know that. I just knew that we had a few that defaulted. Big deal. It's part of the game. It's part of what happens. But now you're getting to help folks. It's a big deal. The other difference is instead of you just saying, okay, Bob, pay us for the next 12 months, that's a good deal. They sign a retail installment agreement. It's a contract that has interest associated with it. Patients, when they get bills across their desk at home to start paying, they pay the ones that have interest associated. If it comes from the doc, if it comes from Dr. Baird at Granbury Dental Center, it goes in file 13 if they don't have the money. They'd just soon wait till next month. But with this, they don't. So it's a different way of thinking. So step 4, the patient signs the contract and comprehensive finance manages a payment plan from there. That's it. You've got dashboards that you can look at that tell you every loan that you've got, what your interest rate is. It's totally transparent for you to see. We also have not just reports and readouts, but this dashboard that shows you what you're collecting. Are you collecting at 100? Are you collecting at 105? We actually have some offices, because of religious reasons, that charge no interest. Remember, I said interest offsets risk. What about their risk? They know that even if they lost 10%, they're doing 90% of the dentistry. If they lost 10%, they're doing 90% of the dentistry that ordinarily they would have never done. People are real quick to sign up for PPOs and for all of these things and give up 30 to 40% of their profit, but then bitch and moan when a patient doesn't pay them that's coming out of pocket. It doesn't make sense to me. From a business perspective, as a businessman that I am, makes no sense whatsoever. I would rather not take 30% or 40% off of my fees, which in turn makes me want to lower my, not quality, I'm going to use a lab that maybe charges less. I'm going to use less costly material. I'm all for controlling expenses, but I want to do dentistry at the highest level I can, and I want people to be able to afford it at the highest level that I can. So you actually do your loan, and compassionate finance does the rest. And I mean, what you pay is really is very little compared to what you're getting to do. I mean, the offices will pay $199 a month or $159 a month. That's to do unlimited credit checks. That's pretty amazing. What does compassionate finance charge to manage your portfolio? And I want you to understand, this is not accounts receivable. This is a portfolio of short duration, high yield paper. That's different. That is very different. You take your AR to the bank and say, I'd like to get some money on my AR. They're going to look at over 90 and they're going to say, here's 4 cents on every dollar. You look at the over 60, they're going to, here's 14 cents. You look at, bottom line is you're going to get almost nothing. But if you take high value, short duration paper of $1 million to a bank that you've built up over a period of 2 years, guess what happens? You can go to the bank, they may say, well, we'll loan you $600,000 on it. As collateral is my paper. We have guys that are opening up new offices by using their paper as collateral. We also have docs that are buying undervalued real estate. A piece of real estate comes, a little shopping center comes up. I have one guy that paid off his entire home mortgage plus ended up buying an airplane. So you can do whatever it is you want to do, but there's a difference between AR and an asset portfolio. They're totally different animals. So I want you to think about them totally different, because that's really where we can help folks. Most dentists work 40 years, 50 years, and they hope to sell their practice for $500,000. I had one of my buddies that used compassionate finance in his last year of practice, built up a $580,000 portfolio of paper, sold his business, kept the paper, and lived on it for 3.5 years. He's back working again, but he got to spend time in West Palm Beach living off the money that was coming in off of his notes. So think differently, please. This is a game changer. It's 180 degrees different than anything you've ever thought about. Okay, there's a case study. Pete Thompson's in Portales, New Mexico. Pete's done well over $1 million, and this is the guy I was telling you about that paid off his airplane, bought an airplane and paid off his house. His collection rate is 114%. He's had write-offs, $102,000. People say, oh, that's horrible. That's terrible. He's had interest of $257,000. So is it horrible? No, it's what banks know, and it's what we should know, and that's the difference. The practices express, they receive new patients every month from being listed as a provider. There's goes across the country. In our office, we get 2 to 3 applications a month. And that's actually starting to become more and more often, where people are finding it on the internet and then saying, I'd like to do compassionate finance. And to me, that's amazing to be able to do that. When you sign up for compassionate finance, you're going to get an ultra premium setup with an iPad, kind of the whole shooting match. It has everything loaded on it for you, your patients, it's convenient, it's easy. And again, think of it differently. This is not conventional third-party financing. This is you doing your own in-house financing, but yet having someone else manage it and you creating wealth like you've never been able to create. The fee that comprehensive finance or compassionate finance charges, they charge 0.5% to manage your portfolio, do the collections, do everything. What that means is if you had $100,000 in paper, they're going to charge you about $500 a month to do that. That's a bargain, especially as your business is growing. So let's now look at another product that is now available from comprehensive finance. It's called Abella. Abella is an account receivable software, and it's really an augment to what you do in your business. What I found is that's very interesting about accounts receivable. We've done surveys. We found out, we did, got the metrics, that most offices have one person that does insurance and accounts receivable. They spend 83% of their time doing what? On hold with an insurance company. That's what they do. Or they're talking to an insurance, trying to find out all these patients that are coming in today, how much insurance is going to cover and all these things. They spend about 17% of their time doing collection calls. Now, when is this usually? 8 to 5? Where are the people that you're calling from 8 to 5? They're in their office. They're at their office. And they see the office call, the dental office, and they go, I already know I owe them. I'm not answering this. And so all you do, your person is spending 17% of their time basically beating their head against the wall. And yes, some people say, well, we don't have any accounts receivable. Well, great. You don't have any accounts. It's cash-only practice. I can tell you one thing, you're limiting your upside potential if you're cash-only. I know that for sure. But what about those practices that you just don't estimate the insurance correctly? And it's a $23 balance, or it's $118, or it's $400. What your accounts receivable person is doing, they're actually, when they start working the AR, they have their AR list, they start at the top. The biggest amounts first, and they work their way down. And they never get to the bottom. The next day they do, well, not the next day, but usually once a week, they'll go back to the top and they start working their way down. All they're trying to do is get as much as they could, as much as they can get. But the problem is people aren't answering the phone. So the cool thing about Abella, it's automated. When was the last time you upgraded your patient billing experience? My bet is never, because we never had. I mean, I've been practicing dentistry for 40 years. We've never updated that billing experience. But where do people live now? They live on their phone. Mailing statements is 1980s. This is almost 2020s. And people are spending 4, 6, 8 hours on their phone. So what Abella has done, it's automated the process. Now it hits them with an email or a text message that goes right to their phone. It says, take a look, check out your invoice, and you look at your invoice, you said you owe $31. Well, 69% of the people actually pick up the phone at that point and call the office and said, I didn't know I owed $31. Oh, no worries. Remember, the insurance didn't cover what we thought. So guess what happens? They pay right over the phone. Here's my credit card. Let's do it. 31% of the people actually pay through the portal that Abella gives you. And so the patient just says, I don't even want to call the office. I know I owe it, boom, boom. They make their payment, whether it be a credit card, a debit card, their HCA, whatever it is, they can make the payment right there. But even more important, if let's say somebody owes you $3,500, they have a choice. They could pay you the $3,500, and many do, but they can also hit a button that says, I want to make convenient monthly payments. Now they have to put their data in. It becomes auto drafts out of their banking account. There's no interest involved because it's after the fact. You already did the work. All you want to do is get them to pay so you get off your AR. And guess what? We collected one that was from 4 years ago that was $3,500, and they picked $118 a month. And guess what? Now we're getting $118 a month as opposed to trying to call them. This is, we're collecting money faster by using Abella's innovative AR software. It's a superior experience. There's no question about that. And it's definitely a superior experience than getting phone calls or receiving statements. That is just, it's beating your head against the wall. We've got fantastic, we integrate, so it doesn't really matter, 95% of the software out there, whether it's Dentrix or EagleSoft or you name it, Open Dental, we're able to go into that software, pull the patients who owe you money. We can set it up in a lot of different ways, but it's set up to where after insurance pays, boom, that's when the statements can start. And I say statements, that's when the correspondence starts going out through email and text, and patients love it. It is a superior experience. Plus, if you don't want, that's my brother-in-law, I don't want to send him a bill, you get to go through and check the ones you want to send to and the ones you don't want to send to. That is, what you get to do, because you don't want to send something to somebody you don't want to do it. They're going to actually get it on their phone. They'll be able to look at it. You set up frequency. We like to send out these text messages once every 5 days. We found that that's best practice. That's when we get the highest percentage of collections. But they look at it. It comes from your office. It's got your logo on it. They can hit a button and look at the invoice. So this is convenient, much better than trying to call somebody on the phone. And so it's all done there. Click to view the invoice, select pay in full, monthly payment. You can pick the payment date you want, payment info, and you enroll in auto pay. That's amazing. So 30% increase in money collected, 70% is collected within the first 30 days, and 90% is collected within 60 days. I'm telling you, how's the pricing of Abella? I wanted to make sure that Abella was something, I believe Abella is going to be in 80,000 to 100,000 dental offices in the next 5 years. Why? Because a lot of times when you have people doing collections for you, they take a piece of the action. They'll take 30 cents off every dollar, or whatever it is. Abella charges a flat rate, $199. $199 a month. I can promise you it's not to replace your AR person, but what an augmentation. They're only spending 17% of their time doing collections, but now you have something that's automated that helps them do their job. And to me, it's a no-brainer. It really is. And so, I implore you to look at this. There's a monthly fee of $199 a month. There's a setup fee. If you're already a compassionate finance user, there's discounts that are available to you. So I want you to really look into Abella, because I think that this is a game changer for dentistry. One of the other things that I can promise you that you're going to see from Comprehensive Finance, you're going to see other solutions for things that we have not really thought about in dentistry, things like our treatment pending that's back in the records, and just all different types of things in our practice. Having them automated changes everything. So, I've enjoyed presenting this to you, and I hope you think differently, because again, this is 180 degrees different than what we've been taught. It doesn't mean it's wrong. In fact, I believe it's right, and it's the way to do it. So thank you.